And welcome everybody. We will have another Women's Speed Chess Championship qualifier today. It is Bullet Saturday, which means that the time control today is 1 minute plus 1 second increment. It is going to be lightning quick. I will do my best to keep you entertained and educated at the same time. The moves will happen so quickly, there will be times I don't even know what's going on. But on a serious note, it is going to be a lot of fun. 21 rounds of action. After 21 rounds, the top 8 finishers will go on to a knockout, just like we've been seeing these last couple days. 8 people go on to the knockout. Then we will have the top 2 from the KO making it into the Women's Speed Chess Championship. That's essentially the finalists. They make it through, and we have liftoff. Let's check out the top board game. Bullet Timo is the number 1 seed. She's the black piece of the team. That is my Narva, and she is a very strong player here. Quickly take on f6, e takes f6, e3. Solid setup for white. I think having double pawns, especially in quicker time controls, can be very dangerous because you get really tired of them. They're not good at protecting each other. c4, I think b3 will be played soon. c3 first, then b3. Try to break this pawn chain. And c3 is just useful so you can play e4. She plays e4 right away. Probably just a good move. This pawn c4 is about to be in some trouble. Ooh, don't like to see that. Here comes a4. And after a4, you make this pawn on b5 weak. Then you go after the pawn on c4. I think that black should throw in a queen e7 check to get the bishop to d3, but this is actually turning out okay because with this rook on a8 protecting, you go a6 here, protect the pawn, then you could take back on a8 with the queen. But I still am looking at takes in b3, just blast open the queen side to your benefit. Here we go, b3 played. Maybe take this rook and then take the pawn on b3. You distract the queen away from the d1 square. So if rook takes rook, queen takes rook, pawn takes b3, that's actually a very dangerous outside pass pawn. Knight a5. I think it's okay, but I guess b4, the knight to b3. Maybe it's just good. Maybe this is just good plan. She's up 10 seconds, which actually might even be more valuable than the position. I'm concerned about this pawn, though. I don't think it's going to last comfortably for too long. But black should be okay here. Just rook to... You can go rook anywhere, but rook to b8 makes sense. Bring the rook into... If you do queen a4, this is a timely move. Hitting this knight, hitting this pawn, but black is going to go knight to b3. So if you ever take on b3, I take with this pawn, and in comes my pawn with the bishop's help. Knight b3 now makes a lot of sense. Rook b2 to start, good move. I feel like black is just picking up the momentum and has a good position at this point. It feels like just knight to b3 now, bishop to f4, these kind of ideas. Black's pieces are coordinating very well, and white's pieces look good, but they're kind of stepping on each other's toes. They're all sharing the same squares. So that's not ideal. Bishop f4 looks good now. This queen actually has no moves, so if you could somehow attack the queen, it would be trapped. So bishop takes g3. If you take with the knight, there may be some bishop c2, but then the queen is e2. So taking back with the pawn makes sense here. And f5, f4, break open some of the king side. 15 seconds left for both players. Okay, you have to make a move here. Just go. Knight d6. f4 play, but just take that. Take this pawn. It's a free pawn. And then, ooh, c4 is also falling. Knight to c4. Now this is turning... Oh, the queen got trapped! The queen got trapped! That's the knight moved! Rook d2! What a concept! Knight takes c4. That's a good try and bullet. Take back on d1 with the rook. Go knight e5 next. Actually, I think that white has good chances here. Knight e5. There it is. Everything is protected. You can take on c8 and play c4. This hangs the c3 pawn, but then there's rook to a8, followed by knight to c6 tax. Knight c6. Play knight c6. Play rook a7 after queen goes to d7. Okay, good move, queen to d6. You avoid rook a7. d5, take this pawn. You watch out for knight e7 check. So I would put my rook at the 7th rank. Just create a threat. c4. This is looking pretty good, all things considered. I don't like rook to d3 so much that I actually hung this rook. So now she gives up her rook for the knight. There's still chances. Watch out for knight e7 check. King moves to f8. Really good find here. And capture back. Play rook to c8. Protect your pawn. The best chance white has is to keep as many pawns on the board as possible. Giving up f4 gives black more... Oh. Uh-oh. A little bit too much now. Just in time trouble. And against the queen. No, this is too much. So let's keep our attention on some other games, just because this one now looks like black is going to convert. And I think that essentially, psychologically, white has already resigned this game. It's a queen and a bishop versus a rook. You have some chances. If you can win this bishop, then you'll have some chances to survive. But without that happening, it's not going to be any chance there. Yeah, queen takes f2. That's it. So let's move on. I think and this looks like there's about to be a mate. Let's go to this game. Oh, that one's over as soon as you get there. Happens sometimes. Valentina Gunina, what's happening in her game? She's the white piece here. Gives a check. She takes the b5 pawn. f5 is coming next to rook e5 check. If the king has to move, take it. Now the e4 pawn and the h5 pawn are both about to be captured. So it looks like Gunina is going to get a win. She does win this game by resignation. We're going to see a lot of wins on the clock, but it's also nice to get a win on the board. King to d3. That way bishop e3 check, kicking this king off. Nice block. And now c5 comes. Play c5. Put your pawn on the square that's protected by the bishop. That way you never have to worry about it. So king up to d4 also makes sense. This one should be quite straightforward. I don't really see a way to botch this. Rook d4 check. Trading off the rooks probably would have been easiest. As soon as the rooks come off the board, it's just a simple win. So rook d4. Okay. Rook to d1 almost traps the rook, but the rook has... You just start... Oh, okay. King d3. Take this pawn. All of it looks good. And now just you take. Trading rooks results in a completely winning endgame. So we see a resignation. And we're done with the first round. Okay. So now we're moving on to the second round. The action is going to be lightning quick, as I was saying. So we're going to do as best we can here to cover everything. But we can only see so many games at once. I feel like some of these players will end up towards the top. So we'll be seeing their games very often. Let's start with this game here. Alina Kashinskaya takes on Demonte, who is from Lithuania. And d3. This is very solid for a bullet game, having a good pawn center here. Play knight f3, put pressure on your opponent's center. So committal decision by Alina, but now she's trying to play d5 and a quick rook e8, taking advantage of the fact that this king is still in the center. I actually think that black is doing very well. Just take this pawn now. And if you take this pawn, you're opening up the center of the board. So rook e8 played. White can play e5, but then black has knight h5, trying to kick this bishop. And eventually this pawn e5 will be in some danger, but for now you have two pieces protecting the square. And a knight on h5 doesn't exactly inspire much confidence. But still, d4, ooh, bishop g4, so d4, you take, I take with my pawn. Oh, this is actually starting to look more and more pleasant for white, because I have a good pawn center, I'm ready to castle kingside. And the reason why I'm taking with not the queen on f3 is because the d4 pawn needed the queen's defense. Ooh, was that me or was that, no, that was the game. Okay, queen to d3, castle queenside is the idea, but watch out for a4. That's why a5 was played, to trap this bishop here. I think a3 is just fine. Wait, bishop takes and a4? No. Oh, this knight on f6 is under attack. Okay, but knight h5 first, hitting this bishop. That is a move that was probably overlooked, but knight e2. So knight e2 is possible, so you can play c3 to kick this bishop and save room for your bishop. a4 and b5. Don't let this bishop out. Oh, c4. You want to play c4, so play b5. She gets a couple... Oh, knight g3 now. Well, you see it, knight g3. It's kind of an only move because g4 forks your pieces. There's knight g3, and this pawn on c2 is also under attack, but I wouldn't take that. I'd play b5. Because bishop takes c2 allows bishop takes h6. The queen was spying this way. So queen g3. White actually has the potential for an attack here. Knight h4, take this pawn. I think you just take it, but bishop e6 or bishop e4 is more solid, keeping the bishop on a safe square. This bishop is terrible, so play c4. You need to get this bishop out into the game. It doesn't really help because black isn't going to take, but I'm looking at c4 just to make this bishop seem useful, as right now it's horribly placed. Knight to e6. g5 would have been bad because you're opening up your own king, but it did fork the queen and the knight, but this is better, putting your knight in g5. But white is not giving up here. 20 seconds left for black. I think the position is easier to play for white for now, but f6 will be helpful, just to give you some more space. It's hard to play with rooks, even though you're up in exchange, when your rooks don't have room to work. Oh, watch out. Queen takes h6 coming, and this king is getting in danger. There's rook f6 ideas as well. Here comes rook f6. I think just bringing the rook and stopping any kind of f6, because if f6, queen h7, play f6 now. You have to, otherwise bishop f6 mates you. Only move is f6. Bishop f6 is queen takes g4. She found a way out, just for the time being. Rook to f4. Here comes bishop f6. This is looking very dangerous here. Bishop f6 still. Oh gosh, take with the pawn. Now play, there's got to be rook f5. If bishop takes f5, g takes f5, I hit your knight here. I think rook f5 is decent. This is a good move. Coming to g3. The counterattack is on. Queen h3 check. That's good. And now I'm trying to take on g4. But if I take on g4 too soon, I might open the g file for a counter. So the knight on e6 is perfect. It protects the g7 square. Queen g5 check will get you out of danger. Queen takes e2 is mate. Walked right into mate. What a game there. That was fantastic stuff by Alina Kashinskaya. Didn't give us a moment to even consider the possibility that she may end up losing the game. There was one little time there I thought that it could get difficult, but she held on very well. Here we have a queen against a rook. This should be winning for the queen. So we'll see Backlight 26 go to 2-0. And we'll keep an eye on some of these players. We're just starting in this event. As they start scoring many points, then we'll say these are the players to watch out for. Too early to make the determination just yet. G5, trying to break through a passed pawn. But unfortunately, you only have one pawn remaining. So all you have to do is knight to d4. And you're threatening both the pawn and the bishop. Take this pawn at f5. It is immediately a draw. Okay. We're going to keep on going. And let's see what's going on. Ooh, turning in for a knight fork. This is just winning for white at this point. Plenty of time left. 7 seconds. You get that 1 second increment. Play rook h2. Start pushing your pawns. e5, d5. And then this should be able to convert. King f5. Play e6 next. Bring the king up to f6. All this should be good. And black has no time to do anything. You play king to g4, king to g3, all this stuff. I'm going to sacrifice my rook for your pawn, and it's not a big deal. Rook takes pawn. I take your pawn c7. In comes my d pawn. Now this is straightforward. So pre-move the rest of the way. Just pre-move. There it is. There it go. Knight! Pre-move to a knight? You're still winning. Knight c6, knight takes a5. But how did that happen? Her settings... Is there such a thing as auto knight? I have no idea. But that was a promotion to a knight. And it wasn't a good one. But she's still winning. She's going to take on b4. Hopefully she figures out a way to turn that off, whatever that was. Because that is not what you want in a bullet game, to all of a sudden see a knight there. She must have clicked the wrong piece. Some people do not have auto queen on. I do not have auto queen on. And so there are moments where you promote and you're going to click the queen and you accidentally click a different piece. Wow. That was almost tragic. Rook a1 checkmate here. I still can't believe that promotion. You don't see that very often. And we're about to get to round 3. So 2 rounds in the books. We have many players still tied atop the leaderboard because there are 186 players taking part in this qualifier in the bullet. We have Stefanova now on the top board, which means that Mainara, who was the highest rated player, she must have, well, she clearly didn't win her game, but I don't know if she drew or lost. Let's go to Padmini, because we've seen her play in both of the first 2 qualifiers. Now she's taking on Liliani in the bullet. I believe that's Nana Zagnidze. And Nana Zagnidze, very strong Grandmaster. In bullet, I don't know how strong these players are. But so far, playing a normal Sicilian, I think the Sicilian is a particularly dangerous opening in bullet, because one wrong move, your position can just collapse. But neither side going for the more sharp continuations. Instead, we see a position where they both cast on the king side, which means you won't see a g4, h4, h5. But black's spending a lot of time here. You can't really afford to spend 13 seconds on a move in bullet. There are times when you absolutely need to, where it's a critical position. You do have the 1 second increment, but it makes you worried, I'll say that much, when somebody's spending that much time in a game where you only have a full minute. All right, knight on d4 is strong here. It's limiting the scope of black's pieces. Knight on e5 is smart. Oops, you're trying to come to the c4 square. That's a good one for your knight. Your rook covers it, and now knight c4 was welcomed. You don't want to play bishop c1, so you take on c4. But there are times when this just favors white, especially if you get e5 in. And e5, there might be an e6. Just pushing that pawn. There it is. And you're kind of ruining black's pawn structure. That's why knight e8 was chosen. If e6, I take back, and I will still have my pawns connected to one another. Bishop f2 is smart, keeping the tension. I think you can take here. But playing e6, just trying to keep the position closed, but this bishop isn't the happiest of pieces. But now you can probably take. I don't like the look of d5 just because of the bishop, but takes, there may be knight takes e5. So she plays bishop c6 first, protecting the pawn twice. Rook a to d1. Comes to mind the pawn is pinned because now the queen is under attack. 2 pieces here attacking, only the rook on c8 defending. So takes, d5 is happening now. This is a much better version than the one I was talking about before, because before there was a bishop on d7. Now the bishop is gone. b6, queen f2, rook c6, then the bishop will end up getting out with knight a4. So bishop d4. White stole a pawn, but black has some queenside play. Play rook c4, play rook c8, play bishop f8. That's the idea. And once you play rook c8, bishop f8, you're trying to go bishop c5. White should play b4. The best thing about white's position is that this bishop on g7 is terrible. So if bishop f8, I don't actually want to trade bishop. So I don't want to allow this bishop here. I thought b4 first and then play f5, but f5 right away looks strong as well, because you are breaking open the king. Rook f1 coming. Use your pieces for an attack. There's rook f1. And f takes g6 is a big threat, so it takes you. Now e6. Play e6. Just get this queen away from the defense, because what you want to do is take here. But after fg6, the queen looks take back on g6, and how about there's e6, and now when you take everything, oh, this king is about to be hunted. e7. If queen e6 is rook e1, actually there's rook e4 ideas as a potential saving grace. Good idea to trade the queens. Takes, rook e4. Ooh, nice move, rook g1. That wins. That wins. Rook f8 checkmate. Rook f8, and you just take back, and that's mate. That was a really good spot there with rook g1 check. I was so focused on the passed pawn, I forgot to look out for the check, take on f7. That's really good stuff there. Let's go back to this game, because what is happening here? Stefanova with the black pieces. I can't tell if white's potential is stronger, and you should just make a draw. I feel like black could play on here. Queen takes d4. Take this pawn. She makes the draw because the pawns do look worrisome, but I thought queen takes d4, start trying to push your own pawn, and I feel like white's pawns may be in more trouble. But I understand the inclination to just make the draw here. It does look worrisome, especially in a bullet game. And we see this one here. Ooh, this is good. 2 bishops against a rook, but these pawns are too strong here. And I think you can win by force. Rook a1 check now. Rook a1. The bishop can't take your rook because then you get a queen. So rook a1 check settles the game. Rook a1 now. There it is. And after king f2, you get a queen. No matter what, you're getting a queen. The one thing you have to be careful about is bishop takes b7, but you bring your rook right back to b1, and then you... Oh! Okay, I thought the bishop was still on e4. That would have been a smart pre-move. Or a smart move is just moves another piece, leave the bishop on e4, and then the rook couldn't get to b1. But now it's winning. So just go back to that moment. Just to teach everybody a little bit of bullet technique. You should play a move like king e3 or something, hoping your opponent is going right to rook b1 so that you take back on b1. It's still not going to work out for you, but just do something like that. Sometimes that's all you need to win a game that you're lost in. And I'm not the best bullet player in the world, but I played enough to know sometimes your opponents are not anticipating you to make an objectively terrible move. So if you're dead lost already, you might as well try that kind of thing. So this game ends in a draw. We have Lile Koridze. She has the white piece against Karina Ambertsimova. Ambertsimova here just has this one with the rook and bishop combination. Bring the king out to g5. Oh, okay. Try and trade rooks. Trading rooks is winning, but bringing the king into the action is very helpful. So here comes king g4 next. All right. Our king f4. King f4 is with a tempo now. And many of these moves are quite easy to play. Bishop e4, g5, bishop f5 after the rook gives a check. Here's bishop f5, and here's g4. It's very simple for black to play. And actually, she's the one ahead on the clock, so there's nothing to worry about. But Karina, she played very well yesterday in the 3+1 time control. Looks like she's off to a great start in the bullet as well. Bishop h3. This is also going to be king h3, rook b1. So rook d2. Here comes rook d1. Trading off the rooks into a winning and give you a g2 check. All right, so g2 now. All right, she's going to play here. Just move your bishop away. Don't stalemate. King g1, play bishop out here. Do not stalemate with king to g3. Just move your bishop. King has to come out here. I get a queen. So this would have been winning for black regardless. And so we now have 11 through 14. So 14 players there with... Am I counting right? No, 11 through... Yeah, 14. So 3 points are scored by 14 players right now. And we're taking off for round 4. Kino Travels, it was a win. That even though there's a promotion tonight, that game was still a win for white. But you don't want to promote tonights by accident very often, because most of the time it'll backfire. So here we have a position where white has great control over the center, but f5 is a committal move. This bishop on g7 will be happier. The e5 square is now black's for the taking, but this bishop can come to g5 thanks to this pawn push. The pawn f4 limited the scope of the bishop. Now bishop g5 makes sense. I would play h6, I think, because I don't want to leave this pin forever. And there are ideas you just take here, play knight to d5. So h6 is good. You're trying to relieve some of the pressure. Now g5, close that bishop off. Then move this knight away to g4, and then take over the e5 square. Actually, black is getting out of this pretty decently here. And knight g4. Just don't allow this square to be taken by white's pieces. Now plug that square. In the very near future, plug that square. This f6 move is going to be a threat. So if you play knight to e5, I think it's f6. f6 now? It's tempting, but it may not work. So it plays h3. Knight takes f3. Then bring your knight to e5. And that's a good outpost. But f6 is still on the agenda. So she brings her bishop to d4 and now puts the knight on e5. Probably the correct move order just to avoid any kind of f6 stuff. And this bishop here is quite strong, but I would try to attack it. How do I attack this bishop? I'm not sure how you do it. Now knight takes d3, bishop takes b2 is possible. Stealing a pawn. h4, trying to open up the king side over here. But actually, opening up the king side only helps black. So that was a good decision, this knight. Look at the dark square control. This is going to be a bad position for white soon, I have a feeling. Because this bishop on d3 cannot compete with the pieces in the dark squares. So a very important, instructive moment in a bullet game is that look at the dark squares. Black has 2 pieces on them, and there's only 1 white piece that can fend them off. But white turns her attention to the open b file, and now bishop e5. Ooh, rook e3, that's a nice tactic. I was thinking bishop e5 just trade off. I wasn't looking for the tactics. I was looking for positional maneuvers. Now you win this bishop on g3. Now rook g4, rook takes h4 is checkmate. So play rook to g4. Plays rook e8, it's also fine. Rook g4. Try to checkmate this king. Actually, this rook on e6 is really annoying. This gives white some chances. Also, white has 45 seconds left. Rook e3, a step in the wrong direction if you ask me. But I wouldn't have traded all the rooks if I were white. I would have left this rook on e6 and kept the b file. Because now, black can just blockade the pawn, free up the queen. I play f5. And I'm just going to checkmate this king. One of the big issues for g4 and then queen h4, one of the big issues for white is that the rook on b1 would not only have been hitting the open file, it was protecting the white king. So the white king just doesn't have many defenders here. Here's a check. I don't like this configuration of queen to king, though, because now the queen can't get into the game. So king f1, play g4, play queen g5. Well, queen g5, there's watch out for checks back here. Good move, king g5. Look at the king running into the... Wait, e7? e7! Wait, e7 was promoting! Oh my gosh, I think like this went too far. Queen takes c5, and all the pawns are lost, and this pawn can run. Queen f2 check, gives king to g5 back. So, wow, that was... It's getting very risky here. Bishop f4. I think black's turning this back into her favor. This king on f1 with a queen and a bishop going to attack it, not going to be so easy. So queen, I guess a queen here, e7. Just push that thing. Now white actually is getting away with this. That's just a queen that you cannot stop. There's not even a single check here. The time advantage, playing very quickly, paid dividends here because black wasn't able in time trouble to... Now, bishop d2 was a good move. Queen d4 threatens check, but that's only... So queen f... Okay, king g1 now. The king can escape to h1. Or you can bring this queen back. Queen g6 is check. Queen f2. Trade queens. I wouldn't... No. Don't leave the queens on. Don't leave these queens on. This is too dangerous. Queen f2 was a missed opportunity. Oh, f4 is a good move. Bishop e3 coming. Oh, yeah, this pawn. It's mate. It's mate. Queen h3. Oh, wait. There was queen a1 check. Oh my gosh, black missed checkmate. Black missed checkmate with queen a1. The king was mated. Bishop e3 just played in a hurry. But queen a1 mates the white king. Whew. What a topsy-turvy game there. Black was ahead for most of it. Then all of a sudden white queen. But still, there was a checkmate attack there. And here we see white with a queen and a bishop taking on this king. Queen a8 is about to be checkmate. So that's a good move. Rook to g7 over here. Take. Queen e5. Take here. You can start pre-moving stuff. Didn't take, but have enough time to win this game anyway. And we're... Oh, wait, that's a queen. Okay, so this is just winning. For black, up a queen. Queen takes d4 check. Move more quickly. You're scaring me. Watch out for knight forks. Knight e4 check. Okay, that's good. Keep checking a bunch. And this is when knight f7. King d5, good move. No checks for this knight. And some pre-moves, taking this knight. And this is now quite straightforward. In comes the king. Don't stalemate. Oh, I don't like the queen being there. That increases the stalemate possibilities on knight c3, queen to b1. Okay, that's good. And a good conclusion to that round for Backlight 26. And Backlight 26 is Shikun Ni, very strong player from China. All right. So we have 6 players at 4 out of 4. Many players there at 3.5, up to the 15th spot. And then, of course, a huge pack trailing with 3 out of 4. This is 21 rounds of bullet. 21 rounds. So there's plenty of time to catch up. You could lose your first 7 games. No, maybe 7's too many. You could lose your first 5 games and still go on to qualify. Well, 7 games, 16 out of 23, you still might have a chance. Whoa, what's happening here? This is a good center. Can you take this pawn? Yeah, take that pawn and play f4 next. You have to. Otherwise, black is just going to push forward here. So the point is that I have f4 to protect my knight. Once you try to pin my knight, you're not going to win it. And this king, if you ever take on e5, your king is going to feel pretty unsafe. So for black, I think I'm looking at a5, bishop a6 type of ideas. Or now I'm going to trade. I think I need a trade, but it doesn't happen yet. a5. If the knight moves, then you can trade. So that's good. I'm still looking at f4 as a way to... There it is. The knight's safer now. Queen to g4. Playing a little too solidly, in my opinion. I like the queen on g4. Here the bishop will come into d2, but the queen could have been active. Instead, it's back home on d1. I understand it's protecting the rook so the knight can move, but there's no good knight discovery. So black's spending some time. Let me keep an eye on some other games as well. So c3. I don't like c3 so much. I actually would have preferred to leave the square open for the bishop. a4. I don't like the bishop staying here. I want your bishop to move so that once your queen moves, this pawn c6 will be weak. This bishop's coming d4. All right, queen d2, good move. Well, actually, I take it all back. The way that white is handling this part of the game is excellent. It felt like a little too safe and sound at first, but now it's looking really, really good. So knight to d7, there it is. That's a fork of your rooks, and that's maybe all you needed. Because you can't even take on f4, as your rook on b8 will be left unguarded. Now you take here, you play bishop takes g7 check, you play queen d4, trade queens off, and this should be a pretty smooth conversion. Rook e5, keeping the queens on makes sense as well. You can play rook to g5, hit the queen, then play queen to d4, play queen d4 now. Yeah, just safe and sound. The reason why I'm just mildly reluctant to play move like g3 is if this bishop gets to the light squares on the king side, that can be a problem. The bishop is so far away, it's not a concern. So it looks like the Mindhunter, firstly, good name. Mindhunter was a good show. Gunay Mamadzada, she is likely to go to 5-0 here. So queen e7 check, yeah, she's going to convert this. So let's go to this game here, a wild game between flawless fighter, that's Polina Shuvalova. She's been playing in the various qualifiers thus far. This pawn on e3, it looks good. So rook takes d4, rook d1 check, and e2. That pawn's promoting. So after... What's the bishop doing here? So rook f4 doesn't work. Wait, that hangs this bishop. Rook takes f5, and then rook back to e5, and you're going to win it. So Polina, she's going to win this game with the white pieces. She is now up a bishop for 1 pawn, but importantly, this is the most important thing here, is she has a pass pawn. It's not just a symmetrical pawn structure where you have chances to hold. Here the pawn is ushered through with the rook's help. There it is. And, okay, now you're up a rook and a bishop, and now you still have a pawn left. That's game over. I expect a resignation, but this is just throwaway moves, just moving instantly, and there's the resignation. So let's go over here to Karina Chess. She has 4-0. Ooh, this pawn is dangerous. Endgames. It's about pawn quality, not necessarily pawn quantity. But what white has just done is turned her pawns. Oh no, you can take that with check. Oh, it's one of those. Oh, it's one of those sad oversights. Honestly, I'm gonna go back here because I think that's a good moment to show everybody. You play rook e6 because you think the rook cannot leave the f file. Because if the rook leaves the f file, then I get a queen. But your king and your rook are on the same line, so you play rook e6, hoping this rook moves away, and then you take the pawn. But rook takes e6 is check, then you just bring your rook back, then white queens. So actually, you could have gone a queen yourself, takes, and now your rook is going to hunt down this pawn. The next move is rook to e6, the king is cut off. So black is doing well here. If you go b4, I have rook e4, I take this pawn with check, and any other move, I either play rook e6, or if you play a7, I play rook a8, rook e8, rook a8, take this pawn. So black had a missed opportunity there. I understood her impulse, but unfortunately it wasn't at the right moment. We have 1 game left here, and this white... Ooh, take this pawn with check. Queen g2, king f6. But take this one with check. So black should never be able to win this game. Oh my god, commentator's curse! She walked into checkmate. Oh, I was thinking that you couldn't win because if you trade the queens, it's only an H-pawn. But queen here, queen H4 is checkmate, walked right into it. Oh, ignore me. Don't listen to anything I say ever again. We're moving on. Can't look at that anymore. Oh my gosh. My bad, everybody. I apologize to you all for misleading you, to leading you astray. That was a checkmate. That was the one way to lose that game right there. All right, so we have Goofy Penguin. First, a great username. Goofy Penguin is Olesya Shevchenko from Siberia, her profile says. And I guess when in Siberia, you get very good at bullet chess. Bishop c4. White's position looks excellent here with all the pieces in the center and all the pawns here. So I would prefer to have this position for white, but black is doing this thing that often happens in bullet. You play very, very quickly. Look at her time, 58 seconds. And the point is, you're not committing to anything. So white's plan is actually not that easy to come up with, and you're just making quick moves. So that's black's idea. But all of a sudden, she's spending some time. She's on 52 seconds, up 10 seconds. Very important lead on the clock. And knight to f6. What's her next one? Knight to g. Look at what she's doing. She's doing a lot of nothing. I think this will backfire, but there's no clear plan for white just yet. And look at white. She couldn't burn some of the clock here. She's down 18 seconds. She plays e5, d5. Now what? What's your next idea? Knight e2? Okay. Where's your knight going? f4? Maybe. Black will eventually have c5. That's why she played rook to c8. I think you should play h4, h5. And bishop c2 is a really good move. Going for h4, h5. And now's the time. You got to go for something here. Knight f4, h4, h5. Knight h5 is very strong. Uh-oh. Good reaction, though. Rook h8. Very strong reaction. I think that... this is done really well right now. Ooh, that pawn's hanging with check. Take that pawn. There it is. She didn't miss it the second time. Now, the pawn isn't necessarily game over, but this bishop's coming into f6. And that's the big thing about this pawn being missing. King g3. Knight g5. This rook is in trouble. If you rook h6, I would take this pawn. And now it's extra material. h5. Rook h1. It seems crushing. So that is the downside of playing so quickly. This queen's trapped, by the way. h6, g6 traps the queen. The bishop covers the square. And hg6. Queen g8, rook h8. Or oh my gosh, g7, rook h8. Or bishop h7. All those were threats. So rook h8 here. Now this new rook to h1. Then take on e8. Then bring the rook into h8. It's winning. This is the downside of playing so quickly, is you play unambitiously. You're just playing for the long run. I'm going to get ahead of the clock. Then I'm going to outplay my opponent later. You get into these positions where when your opponent breaks through, it's really, really bad. So here, this is just a win. Let's move on. I'm surprised that this game has continued at this point, but I expect a resignation. Maybe she only plays a checkmate. Queen takes c7. Okay, that's a hanging knight. Queen c5. Or this. Checkmate here. Checkmate there. Good. It makes sense to not resign in bullet. I actually think that's the one time control where there's never any disrespect in playing on. I mean, with an increment, maybe some people won't like it, but you never know what will happen when your opponent gets worried in time trouble. So this trade of queens will be very bad for white, which is why she keeps maneuvering around. And the kingdom's here. This rook is very strong here. Wow, it covers d7 too. So how do you make progress here? Rook e4, but check. Now your queen can't block, so there will be checks. Rook h4 is possible. Okay, so king h7. Wait, there's a draw. Queen e7 is a draw. Oh gosh, so what happens in time trouble? At this moment here, you can play rook h4 and keep up the pressure. But that was an oversight. Playing rook e4 gave white her only opportunity. I guess there was some concern about rook takes e5 or something like that, which wouldn't have worked out. But when you're in time trouble, you worry about these things. But this rook covers the d7 square, and after rook e4, you can't block with your queen because your rook is left undefended. So you trade queens and lose the rook. I understand that mistake. It makes perfect sense. Not trying to be critical. I just, it's one of these things where the more practice you have, the fewer times end up in that kind of situation. King to b6. Oh, king c6 now. The king gets the d8. So you get king d8, you get king e7, you escape. This is going to be tricky. So let's watch this because rook versus knight, for some of us, will not be that easy to figure out anyway. But with just 3 seconds, 4 seconds now on black's clock, you may see a knight blunder. But you need to push the king and the knight to the back rank. Or one of the rook files. So king f6, don't go voluntarily to the last rank. And even when you get to the last rank, it's often still a draw, but you just want to ensure that you're in no danger there. Oh, draw by repetition. Okay. And that's it. So after 6 rounds, we have no more perfect scores. 4 people at 5.5. Then all the way down to 14th place with 5 out of 6. And then many people with 4.5. So let's move on to the next round here. We have Grandmaster Stefanova. Oh, is that Carissa Yip? Magician for MA. Carissa is a teenager from the United States. She's an international master. She played very well in the Cairns Cup, where she lost, I think, her first 4 games, but then went on a tear down the stretch, going 4 out of 5, including beating women's world champion Ju Jun. And here with the black pieces, typical Carissa type of setup. Again, non-committal, can play for c5, can play for e5. She can choose where to change the trajectory of this game. Now, white is ahead in the clock, so Stefanova not worried at all so far. She plays e5, does Carissa, and you can put your queen on d6. I can always kick your queen out, so knight to e8. But that's the thing, b3, trying to get this bishop to a better diagonal. This d6 square is one that black needs to watch out for. So rook e8, a4, that's a good move. You want your bishop behind the pawn, so it's less vulnerable to attack. Because if this pawn were not here, queen a5 would attack the bishop. So I'm looking at bishop d6, queen d6, getting to the endgame. I'm actually not so scared of this. Trade queens. She plays queen f5. I don't like that move. Bishop b4 comes in with tempo. If you like queen here, I play a5. So she brings her queen back. She lost the tempo there. She should have traded queens right away. Bishop e6. The problem with bishop e6 is your knight wants to be there. So your bishop is actually taking away your knight's square. That's frustrating, but you have no real weaknesses in your position. Knight f to d7. Bring this knight around. Maybe knight... I did both knight f to d7. Knight f8 to d7. Bishop f8. So g5. Knight goes to h7. So black is a bit cramped here. That's the annoying thing. f6 was possible there to break open. I actually really liked f6. I might have won a pawn. Because if you take on f6, bishop takes f6, your h4 pawn is vulnerable. So f6 still. You can't sit and do nothing if you are in the black side of this position because you don't have space. And now white is thinking about f4 herself. So knight to b6, I guess knight to c8 is coming, but the bishop moves out the way. You want to provoke b6 so you later have a5 to challenge on the queen side. Bishop d7, blunder to piece. Yeah, the time advantage, lacking space. Unfortunately for Carissa, she didn't quite have a handle on this one. And it looks like Stefanova has played an excellent game and will secure the full point here. That's what it looks like. And so it's just going to be... It should be a relatively simple task. But knight f5, now some of these dark squares. Watch out, bishop f4. Bishop f4, 93 check. Overlooked. 93. I play king e2, and after knight takes d1, I have rook takes f7 with check. So, ooh, she allowed that take with check now. But this pawn on g6 is hanging, and this pawn on c6, everything's falling apart. Yeah, that's not good. So just to go back one more time to just give a quick little tidbit of instruction. Here, f6, challenging this g5 pawn was necessary. You need space for your pieces. You can't sit and do nothing. And as I was saying, if takes, bishop takes, your h4 pawn's in trouble. So black needed space to breathe. Her pieces couldn't move. And, well, Stefanova deserved that point. Let's go to Karina Chess versus Anna Maya. Anna Maya out here with 5 out of 6. So she's having a good performance. She's a popular streamer. She's been working really hard. And bishop b3. Oop, down goes a4. And this pawn on c5 is also now vulnerable. Well done by Anna Maya here. Rook to d8. Rook f8. Trying to get to the f3 square. Bishop on d5 is excellent. Look at its defenses here. Everything is protecting each other. Watch out. 3 seconds. You got to move quicker. Rook move. Anywhere. Go king e5. There it is. Good move there. 3 seconds to 8 seconds. C6. Don't take on C6. Your bishop is pinned. King D6. Now play rook C8. Rook F3 check is also good. And rook to B8 probably is the safest, and rook to B6. Oh, she hung the bishop there. Anamaya in time trouble. She's playing this really well. Rook B6 is smart. Now you're going to take on C6. And now it's white who's down on the clock. And now you've taken the passed pawn. You should be very comfortable here. Rook F7 check. So there's no more check, but you can go rook to F7. Rook D4, King E5 is a little vulnerable, so she brings her king back to E7. Bishop D5. This is the best situation for the bishop. Rook C4. Don't trade rooks. Yeah, white needs to keep the rooks on. 3 seconds still. Rook B7. King F6. Rook B6. Good move. Rook to B1. Bring the rook down to B1. Try to threaten this king. 3 seconds per side. Still anything can happen here. King E7. King F7. Rook to B1. Rook B2 is strong as well. Hitting F2. Take on F2. Oh, take on F2 loses the bishop. She plays rook B5. She saw it. King H7 now. Then go rook B2. This bishop is no longer hanging because the pawn is no longer pinned. So here we go. Rook F3 check. That was mate in 2. Now the king escapes, but still good for black. But there was a checkmate in 2 moves. Rook G5. Don't hang this pawn. Play H5. Rook D3. Taking everything. She's taking everything here. And the good news for Anamaya is that with her rook on G5, it can't be dislodged. It's protecting G7. That's her only weak point. Here, rook C2. Here, rook F5. And rook F1 next. The king needs to be out of the way to get to G7, but she got a queen. Take the rook, and that's all. There's no stalemates. I'm looking for a stalemate. There's none. Wow. Anamaya. She wins that game, and she moves to 6 out of 7. Let's look here. Ooh, that's checkmate here. White was trying to checkmate, but got checkmated first. And looks like it. That's another checkmate on the board. So we are 7 rounds in here. We are 7 rounds in. After round 7, there will be a break. And, well, I think we have 7 rounds in the books, which means that we're taking a break. The players get to relax a little bit. Playing Bullet is super stressful. We'll return very shortly with the next bunch of rounds. There will be, just for everybody to know, there will be breaks after round 7, after round 14, and then after round 19 as things head towards the final stretch. So I'll be right back. Stay tuned, everybody. More Bullet to come. And we are back with round 8 of action here. We see that the games are just taking off. I hope everybody is enjoying the action thus far. We are 7 rounds completed. We are about to have we are in round 8, not we're about to have. And here we see that Grandmaster Stefanova, she is on the black side of a Caro-Kann here. It's going to be D takes E5. Players are playing a little bit slowly thus far because spending 15 seconds to get this position seems like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it can't be jitters. They've already been playing a bunch of games, but maybe it's a point where they know they're playing super strong opponents round after round. They want to be extra careful in the opening stage. So queen to c5, offering the queen trade. I think this is a very good practical decision for a bullet game. Because if the queen stayed on the board, white would have f5 and a kingside attack. Now there's no attack to speak of. Black is doing totally fine here. Bishop e2 was strong because otherwise the bishop would come out to b5. This French bishop, even though it's a Caro-Kann, the bishop is behind its own pawn. Okay, now I think I'm going to start liking black very soon. Because you can play in the center and have a pawn match. So castle queenside, this is good. Instead of rushing to play e5, you castle queenside. And I'm looking still for this e5 push. Rook e1 is pretty decent. e5 though. I mean, this bishop can't move because knight to d3. Like you want to play bishop h5 and bishop f7, but there's knight to d3 check. Still knight to d3 check. So the bishop can't get out here like it would really hope to do. So knight to d4 coming after this pawn. At some point b4 is going to be annoying. Bishop on f3. f5, watch out for that. For that move. Because if I get f5 in, oh, bishop h5 now. Good move. Rook e7 gets trapped. Knight f5. Watch out for rook e7, knight f5. Can't play rook e7. Now b4. Push this pawn. Kick this knight out the way. The knight will have to go to a4 with check. My king comes up to b3. The knight is sort of trapped out here. This pawn e6 will be captured. So, ooh, I totally overlooked knight to e4. Somehow that move just didn't come to mind. But now that I see it on the board, black's looking all right for the moment. I want to play f5 and get after this d5 pawn. It's too slow, though. So, king on d6 is very safe. Knight coming to c6, smart idea, but rook c8. e5 also good. King takes here, and then this rook is about to barrel through to f2. Knight c6, if you take with the pawn here, you have a passed pawn. If you take with the rook, you go after the b6 pawn. Check. You can keep checking. She might do that. That's a good move. Rook check. But then king b4. Somehow, the king is... Oh, I'm scared about this. I don't like the look of these pawns. I know I have these pawns. But somehow having the queenside pawns away from the rest of the action is looking really dangerous to me. King c5. If you check, king comes to b6. Oh, here comes king b6. Now a5 is coming. e3, check. a5, a6. But now, I don't like where the rook is. Because if you go a5, there's rook to b3. And I pick up your b5 pawn. If it takes on h7. So who's better and why? Feels like black's pawns are now quicker. But white's rooks are in prime looking rook e5. Okay, that's a race. Rook h1, e2, a6. Okay, plays there. Why the b pawn? That I can't quite figure out. Why the b pawn? So taking a6. All right, e1 captures. King takes a6, d2, a7, d1. Black gets there first. Queen. And now this king is probably gonna get checkmated. Oh, there was probably a mate there, but we'll see how this happens. Queen e4. There's no rook d6. King back to the center. Yes, keep the king in the center. You don't allow the rook to check you. That's very important. And it's a draw. Wow, 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 wow. So at the start of this, after the queen, perhaps rook c1 check. The king has to go to the b file, and now your queen... Oop, not there. Don't hang your queen. Queen d5 check. This king's actually just hunted down right away. And I think that was the... After that was missed, it becomes much harder because the rook coming to c1 is really useful. The queen allowing the king towards the center, it looks right because you want to do this the ladder, right? You want to go here, you want to go here, here. But then you realize you can't go rook f1 next because your king's in the way. So there's no time to execute that checkmate. We'll look at Tanya Sachev's game. She has the white pieces. She lost here on time, but also in position. She was in trouble. Ooh, we have a bridge built getting a queen. And actually black is ahead in the clock as well. Take this rook with check, and that should be it. Queen f2, rook g1. And we have one more game. Up an extra a queen. So no stalemates here. As long as we don't see that, we will come to a conclusion of round 8, and we have 2 players in first place, and Shikuni, and is that Natasha Zhukova? Let's see. It's Natalia Zhukova, yes. King c3, queen b2 is checkmate. So Zhukova and Ni up at the top. And next round is underway. Let's go to the matchup on board 1 between these 2 players. And there's still so much time left for competitors to make a comeback, because it's 21 rounds of bullet. 21 rounds. And with that in mind, it's only round 9 now. So if you lose a couple games in a row, not the end of the world. You can bounce back if you get in a hot streak. So e4 played here. I expect some kind of bishop c5 or bishop b4. But it looked like she lost connection for a second. Looked like for a quick second her connection went out, which is not ideal, obviously. So knight h7, trying to play f5 to fight for the center. It's a good move. Now this pawn on d3 is potentially vulnerable, but look at this bishop with its scope on the long diagonal. Watch out. Rook to b8, good move. Is black going to play d5? That's the essential question in this position. Is if you get d5, trade off these bishops, it feels like there's less pressure in black's position. And now, some thought. Queen to a4. Rook takes b7. Rook takes b7. And then bishop takes c6. Ooh, missed opportunity there. Rook takes b7 was a nice one. I guess bishop takes a7 somehow is a threat now, but rook takes b7 was available. And now black going deep in thought, but her connection, I see, her connection isn't great. Not ideal here. Rook takes b7 is still possible. I guess rook takes b7 is very risky. I mean, it still looks good to me, but it is risky. So knight to d2. This g5 situation in front of the black king, I think it's really about black's internet connection. It says 2 bars right now. She's down quite a bit on the clock. Not looking like her chances are great. Knight e4, the knight's coming to c5. So a6, you don't want to take that pawn because your queen's about to get trapped with rook a8. Now there are tactics. Once this bishop moves from d5, oh, it says she's offline. Hey, she's back online. She got a move off, b5. And now everything's collapsing, though. Her connection is bad. I think she should just lose this game and then fix her internet. That would be my focus. So a win for Zhukova. Vaishali, she's back in the mix. She played very well yesterday. And now with the white pieces, I see just an accumulation of pressure on the black king. Takes on e4 with the bishop. Take that thing. Take again. And this is protected. And your rooks are lined up perfectly. So it takes knight h5. Rook h2. I thought knight h5 was a little quicker, but knight h5 is still going to come. Oh, I didn't even see that pawn was hanging. My energy, my attention was all on the king side. Queen d4 check. That's mate. That was well done. Vaishali, she's been really playing excellent chess day after day. And we have Lila Javakashvili with the black pieces here. Taking on Crazy Girl 999. Let's see who that is. That is, of course, Tokyo Yanova. And one of these days I'm just going to remember who people are. Tokyo Yanova with the white. Wait, isn't white up a rook? How did that just happen? I looked at who it was. G6. Oh my gosh, it's like a mating net. And after it takes bishop e8 check. That's brutal. The only move would have been king to g8. And then after check, there's bishop to f8. Still going to be not an easy position. You can play bishop e8, bishop f7, things like that. But, of course, that allows black to prolong the game. Stefanova still going on here against Mamadzada. So rook a3, now taking this a5 pawn. And it looks like the Mindhunter is taking this one here. So, g4, with the help of the knight, this pawn should make progress is g3. Our king g3 is also, of course, good. Check. Take the rook. King h2. g3. g2. g1. That pawn is unstoppable. So it's going to be a win here for black. And playing this out is just going to lead to eventual checkmate. So let's go to Alina Kashinsky. What's happening here? Black is like kind of a mutual zugzwang position. Take this pawn. And then your a pawn runs. Wow. Queen. Okay, but there's an extra queen for black. So around here, when I was looking at it, what I was saying was essentially if it was black's move and you take on b3, then I queen, distract your bishop, and take your pawn. But actually black can just move this bishop a bunch of times and do the same thing, because the bishop can lose tempi. It's a good thing about bishops in these type of positions. And we see a win here. Wow, that's a lot of extra material. And rook d1, king f2, then h4, f4 doesn't matter. You're going to take the pawn, no matter where, to take this pawn here. Play f3. So this works out. Wait, king f1. No. You just allowed your pawn to get a queen. King f1 was wrong. Uh-oh. Now I don't know if it's going to be a win. It should be winning for black, but your life is a lot more difficult. That's for sure. Or should it be winning? I mean, there's going to be a lot of checks against this king here. Queen h1. Then king e2. Queen d... Oh, queen takes f3. Ah. That's a draw. So back here, it's about just playing f3. Just play f3. You're going to just rush your pawn down as soon as possible. And here, g2, g1. White is way too slow. So a missed shot there. We have Vaishali taking on Zhukova. This is a matchup for first place. We have 3 people tied, second and fourth, a half point behind Zhukova. And then we have a bunch of players up until number 11 with 7-9, and then a pack at 6.5. So players like Carissa Yip, she was doing very well to start. She was 5 out of 6. It seems like she's fallen behind a little bit, but with 21 rounds total, there is so many rounds left, so much time to mount a comeback. So here we see this game. It is an Alyekin defense. White has a good center. Black is developed, putting pressure on that good center. So if you play bishop e3, often black plays d5, trying to challenge your c4 pawn. So b3 is just kind of preemptive, keeping everything safe and sound. d5, here will be c5. And what black wants to do, actually, is play bishop e4. You want to play bishop e4, take this knight. I don't like knight to d7. I like... Because where's the knight going from here? I thought there's oftentimes you do a knight c8, knight e7, knight f5. I've seen Hikaru do that a bunch of times. Okay, bishop e4. If you take on e4, you're actually going to lose a pawn. You're going to lose this pawn in particular. Because takes, at the end of this, your bishop on b2 is left undefended through the pawn on d4. So this actually is about to happen. Knight takes c5, or knight takes d4 even. But here, this is exactly what I was trying to tell everybody. This bishop is left undefended, and so black steals this pawn. Black is going to try to steal this pawn next. Take this. Ooh, don't. I think you can get away with taking this rook, and then play e5. Queen d4. That's actually just better. Zhukova is on fire right now. She's playing excellent chess, excellent bullet. She's seizing her opportunities. Every single kind of tricky position, she's handling it quite well. But actually, now that I said knight takes c6, and then bishop c4. Uh-oh, please tell me that wasn't another commentator's curse. I feel bad that I've already spoiled some people's chances. Knight c7 doesn't do it. So she gave up the rook. I wouldn't have done that. She should have moved her rook first. Maybe she forgot her rook was hanging. She is up 22 seconds. Queen c1 or queen a1? Queen a1 would have traded queens. So queen a1 now. I think if you're white, you're up a pawn right now. Go queen a1 and then play quickly. So rook e8, queen c3 is possible. She doesn't play it. Queen b4. There is queen b2 check though, and the rook comes to d7. So you actually have to be very... You're taking away the escape square. That's why she played this way. But do you take on d2? I don't really want to take on d2, but I also don't want to see my king get checkmate. So queen d6, queen e2. Keep this rook under attack here. Queen e4, check, and rook d7. You're going to have to check here, and then play queen e5 check. So here's queen e5, and black still has chances. You're only down one pawn. She can take on c5 next. b4, a5. Oh, but a5 you take. a5 you take and go a6, a7. You win. You push the pawn to a7, then you have rook d8 check at the end, and you get a queen. Vaishali fights back from a position she was down in exchange. She ends up winning, and we won't see a resignation, at least not yet, but it's completely winning for white up a full rook. So the rook will sacrifice itself for the c-pawn. White's king, as you can see, is gobbling everything else up, and rook takes c1. So resignation now. So at that moment, knight takes e6. She moved her king. She should have moved her rook first, just to keep it defended. Maybe rook to c8. The point is after bishop c4, you have king h8, and your queen is so perfectly defending your king. Actually, there's still an attack, things like this, trying to get here. If you take on g5, the queen b2 check. So maybe I should have been more vigilant of these counter threats, but f5 is really what started her problems. But okay, that game, it's one game. She lost it. She's still in good shape. In this tournament, whoa, there's a king on h5. White is up a rook. It looks like Padmini is just going to win this one, and she does. It's a battle of Georgian Grandmasters, and both sides have rook, bishop, and pawn. Opposite color bishops. This pawn is clearly better. b2, there's bishop d4. So you want to play b2 very badly, but this bishop comes to d4 to stop you. Rook e4 hitting here, pinning the bishop. It's getting close. You can play b2. Play b2. And the reason why I like b2 is that you can't take with the bishop, and then your rook has to take, and I get rook and bishop versus rook. She doesn't see it. The move, it's not really a natural move to play, but it was available to her. King c5, king c4. Check is smart. When your opponent only has 2 seconds left, it's rook c8. The bishop falls. Oh gosh. This one's turned around. Play b2 and get a queen. Wait, take? King takes? Check here. Rook. Wait a second. b2? Oh gosh. Oh gosh, she went for the rook behind the pawn, which is what you're told to do. But unfortunately for her, it didn't actually work out here. So instead, at this moment here, play rook f3 check, king c2, king c4, b2, check, king c1, king c3, and it looks like you're about to checkmate if black promotes to queen. So black should promote to a knight with check, and then white is happy because you're up a rook for a knight. You still have some chances to win, even if the game should not be a victory. We saw a rook versus knight earlier. It should be holding, but still, this would have been white's best chance. Instead, the game immediately ended in a draw. We're on to the next round. We have 2 players at 8.5 points. They're playing each other right now. Then you have up till 7th place with 8. Only 2 players with 7.5 out of 10. Surprising. And then everybody has 7 out of 10. So a big pack chasing here. So that is Natalia Zhukova. That's right, Stevis. Okay, so here we see that white has a good development. All her pieces are out. Bishop on b5 is now on a square that can't be attacked by a pawn because this pawn's on a5. So that's what white tends to like. And as soon as you push your pawn very far, you give me this square. So knight b4, what's the idea? To try to play d5. Can you get away with d5? Because after a takes, you can't. The knight on b3 covers the a1 square very importantly. Otherwise, there would be some mating nets. So now you got to move back. I didn't like knight b4. I thought knight a7 is the move there. She's thinking of bishop takes b3. I think queen c7. Ooh, that's tricky. Wait, but if I take, knight to d5. Oh, she can take on b3 first. Nice. So if c takes, a takes, there's a pin. But c takes, a takes, bishop c4. There's a take here, b5. There's all sorts of crazy stuff happening. I think white's in big trouble. I think that this game is getting complicated, and white's king is in danger. Black's king is perfectly safe. So only thing to watch out for: b takes, queen takes. This bishop takes f7 check, winning this queen on c7. So you just have to be alert for that. So don't play b5. b5 is tempting to open up the position, but bishop takes f7 check. Good by Vaishali. She plays rook to c8. Her queen is protected. She can play b5 now if she wants, but what she really wants is to get her queen to the a file. If her queen could say, get down to a2 or a1, she's about to deliver a kind of checkmate. But for now, the queen is out of squares here. And look at the queen to b8. The idea is to go b5. So queen b4 can be played to stop b5. d5 doesn't work because the bishop was hanging. I don't like the look of this. Don't like the look of this one bit. Queen b7, queen a6. Play bishop d5, I guess, and then trade rooks in c1. This looks scary. Queen to b7. Ooh, knight d7 feels strong on one hand, but also it felt a little slow. Bishop takes, pawn takes. You're going to go c4. And queen a7, all this stuff. Now, this is not looking fun. But this king is safe if you can take this pawn and put your king on c2. So b4, take here. Rook c1, this queen, rook a1 check. So takes the pawn. Watch out for this sort of mating pattern. Uh-oh, and your rook on h1 is lost. Check, take the rook, and black is winning. Black is winning. Up a rook here, and wins by resignation. Vaishali, she's on fire right now. She's playing great chess. And we have an all-India matchup right now between Harika Janavali and Padmini route. And here, black is down a pawn, but white's pieces feeling a little stuck together. King to d7, bishop to d6 check. Actually, h3 I didn't like so much because now g3 is coming, and I have bishop d6. Nice find. Take on d4. Take on d4 here. Good move, rook takes d4. And the reason why that was good is if... I can explain in a second, but this is just going to be a draw. Rook d6, rook takes d6. So I would say both players had ample time. But if you took with the pawn after king to d6, it's just a drawn endgame, and you know that. So you kind of hope that after rook takes d4, your opponent is pre-moving or playing king to d6 too quickly, so you can take the rook. Because either way, the position results in a draw, so you might as well go for the slightly trickier one. Okay, let's see what's going on next. We have Alina Kashinskaya with black. We have Nurgiu Salimova. And looks like Salimova's taking the a6 pawn, and Alina drops on time. So a win for white. That's a big win for her. We have Lila Javakashvili with the black piece, and Natalia Buksa, excuse me. And what's e2, e1? That's a queen. Go queen d2, queen b2 checkmate. There it is. So strong finish there. And whoa, pawns galore. Take that knight. That's funny. You didn't even have to. You could play g2, knight e2, but king f2. She played it very safe. Take this pawn. The king g1 would have been one last hope for a stalemate. It wasn't going to happen. This is just checkmate. All right. And one game left in the round. Just one game. Ooh. 2 rooks versus 2 pawns and a rook. Should be winning for white. Especially with rook h2 check coming. Okay, rook f5 also. Take the pawn. Rook c3 check. Rook back to h8. Well done. Give a bunch of checks. If I'm black, I give a bunch of checks. Now rook here, rook g8 check. Rook takes g3. Take on g3, and you're up a rook. So, she's got this. A full rook ahead. There are opportunities to blunder, but doesn't feel super likely here. And give some checks. You want to gain some time. So now actually the ladder is about to happen. Rook c4. Oh. So check and rook b3 check. Ah, she won it. But it's not quite checkmate, but the king has to come in d2. That's pretty awkward. And then I can start trying to mate your king with the ladder. Okay, next round. Round 12 is underway. We have Vaishali taking on Nurgiu Salimova. Let's see. I'm just going to keep an eye on people who are in that 8-point, 7.5 point range. Of course, Vaishali, she's in first place. She's playing really well, so we will watch her contest. But there will be some people who, unfortunately for them, they fall back. We won't see them competing anymore. So I'm curious to see some of these players in that pack. Let's check out Valentina Gunina's game against Pomegranate 988. Pomegranate 988 is Grandmaster Bela Kotinashvili. And we see White trying to play for e4 now. And here's going e4 is going to come. But after e4, you take and try to play c5. That's generally the idea. Because otherwise this bishop gets stuck behind its own pawn. So c5 is coming. You really don't want this bishop to stay there at c5. Now the bishop competes with the enemy bishop on the long diagonal. You feel better about your position. So let's go back to Vaishali's game. We have... Wait, whose move is it? White's move. Okay, if it's Black's move, Rook takes e2. So it was White's turn. b5. This is thematic in this version of the Caro-Kann. It's funny because this pawn h5 to most is like a big weakness. Why would you push your pawns in front of your king? But Black does this just to limit some of White's possibilities. I mean, g4 is a lot harder to play because I can take on g4 and then you loosen control over the e4 square. So knight in c5, that's a good outpost, but this knight is going to try and challenge it very soon. But the knight has to stay put because g6 is under attack. So there are going to be sacrifices on g6 if you move the knight too early. Now with queen f2, I would think about knight to e6, just trying to trade off the piece. King g7, safe move, good move. And g4 is coming up soon. I don't want to just allow you queen f4, but g3 doesn't work. This pawn will be hanging. Bishop e4 trying to trade pieces. It also gives the square for the knight on d3. How about g4 now? This is looking pleasant for White, but not in the clock. And double the time, essentially, for Black here. So Salimova is trying to get a huge lead on time and win this game. But I am somewhat worried about this king here. If queen takes, now I have rook f1. Switch my rook to same line as the queen. This is not easy. This pawn structure is actually very helpful, though. Because if White plays g5, you have f5, closing down the f-file. So c4, can I just take that? Okay, she sacrificed the pawn, so her king side didn't have to open up. But rook e2, oh gosh, it's opening up. No, this is bad. Rook c1, only move. Only move is rook c1, but then rook takes f2, and then rook was hanging. So a win here for Salimova. Unfortunately for Vaishali, she's about to be caught in the standings. In fact, Zhukova already overtook her. E. Queen b2 is mate. Rook b8 is helping out if needed. So it seems like now... Oh, man. Okay, what's happening here? So king on h7. Ooh. That's a problem. So Harika wins that one. And that's a good pass pawn. That's a weird knight on a1. Haven't seen one like that in like forever. It's just should be easy now. Oh, okay, knight takes b3. King takes here. Knight b3. Oh, knight b3. Oh, knight check. It should have been easier than this. And now Black is the one who can like try to be tricky here. Oh, but now White, it's back for White here. Good idea by King e2. Very good idea in my opinion. Instead of trying to promote and seeing what happened there, just liquidate, trade off. Wait, actually, hold up. Hold up, that pawn's going. And it's gone. Oh my gosh, Black won this. When we tuned in, I jinxed the situation. What's wrong with me? Why do I keep doing that? It looked like White should just win easily. Oh, that's sad. King c4, king c2, take this knight. We're going to go back to a critical moment because why I was thinking this would be so simple was because it looked like White was promoting and there's nothing Black could do to stop it. But here's a moment where sacrificing some of the material back is good. Wait, so I decided Black had a queen and then the queen went away. But okay, I'm going to go to this point. So here, rook takes, king takes, pawn h7 is just winning. I get a queen with check on the long diagonal. So by not getting rid of this knight here, and okay, White didn't have much time, it's so natural to recapture here. But then after what happened in the game, oops, sorry, went ahead, too much for my own good here. But what happened in the game was very tricky because this knight came back for black and helped win the game. So even rook takes c2 here, it's hard to make these moves in time trouble. But rook takes c2, getting rid of the passed pawn so that you can go promote would also have been good. But the table's turn. This happens in Bullet all the time, and we go on to the next round. So we have Salimova taking on Zhukova. Zhukova now in first place. Salimova in a tie for 2nd through 5th. And now there's a nice pawn on d5. You're never too happy, but that queen on d7 awkward with this bishop on c8. But she didn't want to commit to f6 because then her light squares are vulnerable. So rook f to d1. I like the way Salimova was playing this. These are strong rooks. These pieces not doing anything for black. Probably h6 at the right moment to kick this bishop away. And d4, it is well defended. What about e3 though? e3 will get the bishop trap after g5. So that's why h4 was the choice. Queen f7, hitting this pawn on a2. a3, not really the move you want to play, but understandable. It feels like black has really gotten out of this. Now bishop to b3 comes to kick the rook off the d file. a6 is also perfectly good. Just stopping any kind of b5. Bishop c4. Hitting e2, stopping b5. Bishop b3 also stops for 5 and hits the rook on d1, so that's a pretty good move. But I think the rook on d2 is helpful, just protecting e2. The issue is this knight is reroutes. Here comes knight d3. Here comes knight c5. You don't really want to trade bishops. Your king feels weaker. So knight f3. Back. I mean, 91 knight f3. Not exactly the repetition you want. But how about b5? Now that's available to you. So I would consider it. The bishop just got trapped here. That's a problem. That's a big problem. Good alertness by Zhukova there to trap the piece. And she's thinking about taking on f3. She does. E takes, just take this, and don't lose your queen to a pin. Take this pawn on f3. Knight e5 is really nice. Really nice move. Taking control c4, threatening knight takes f3, and now you're liquidating. So now black is up a full piece. d3 is about to happen, and once d3 happens, this bishop is hitting f2. The queen takes g3, so bishop d4. Rook c7 is one check. Oh, queen g3. Queen h3. So only one check still. Can you play rook h8? Rook c7. Wait. Rook c7, I guess you have king... Wait, rook c7, the game continues. Because you have to bring your king to the h file. Unless you have king f8. You have king f8. Whew! I calmed down. King f8, because this square is under control by black's queen. So that's why the resignation happened. Good play there by Zhukova. Let's go to Vaishali taking on Padmini. Ooh! Just as we tune in, there's a checkmate on the board. And, well, it looked like black was the one threatening, but the king was so unsafe in the center of the board. So, rerouting the rooks to the c file and checkmating black. Let's go to Zagnidze taking on Harika Jarnavali. Knight on c5 is very strong here, protecting a4. And the thing is, what about rook takes c5? Can black go for that? You have to count, and I don't have time to count when they're moving so quickly, but Harika does have time. Oh! She had time, but she didn't use her time, and she got forked. Oh, that's really sad. And this happens all the time. Bullet. Knights are the trickiest pieces. Knight to d6. She plays knight c5. Okay, she can take on a4, bring the knight back around, take the f7 pawn. Ah, that is... Yikes. Yikes. That's sad. We're going to have to go back in this game because there was time for Harika to figure things out. And I think she's frustrated, so she's playing it out here. You know, she knows she's going to lose the game when there's plenty of time on the clock. But when you're frustrated, you just want to get moves out of the way. Just say, all right, all my bad moves are behind me. Here, it's resigning one move before checkmate. You have to allow the checkmate at that point. So where was it? It looked like black was just cruising in this game. Traded queens, and here, right around here, you have to calculate rook takes c5. Because the king comes to b4 quickly. And I don't know if it works, but at this point, when your opponent plays e4, like, you have 26 seconds left. Playing this so quickly, obviously backfired because the knight takes e4. But you have time on your clock. You have to use it. So there's such an urge to play instantly in bullet because you only have 1 minute for the entire game with the 1 second increment. And I think what is partially difficult is when people do play bullet, you don't have the increment on the clock, right? Whenever I play bullet, it's 1-0. That's it. I'm getting flagged all the time because my mouse speed is not very good. But you get into that mindset, so you're playing instantly every move, but then you could sit and think for 10 seconds there or 5 seconds there, and then she wouldn't have blundered her rook. It's a mistake that everybody goes through, so I'm not trying to say, how could you? But it just is a good learning moment there, where if she is going to go qualify and then compete in the knockouts here, you need to use your time wisely, which she was doing. She had a great position and more time on the clock, but in that critical moment, so you don't miss knight forks, you have to spend a little bit of time. So this game should just be a draw. You're going to sacrifice your knight for the pawn. Even king a6 here would have been good with knight d6 check because the king was going for the pawn. So knight c6, knight a7 check, knight c6. Also, black has plenty of time here. They drew by repetition. Great. And this one should be a win for black. Up a pawn. That's right. Hard to realize you have time often in bullet. Yeah. You never think that you actually can spend some time. Knight f4 or king f2, queen g2 mate. And we're going to round 14. We have Natalia Zhukova in first place, clear first place. And only one player with 10.5. That is Padmini. And they're going to play each other. And then all the way down in 19th place is 8.5 points. So I'm sure there's so many people there. But as you see, it's going to be a tight race to the very end of this. We watched Alina Kashinskaya lose a couple rounds ago. Now she won a couple games. She did 9 out of 13. I'm going to bring up Flawless Fighter as well. But let me just stick to Zhukova here. Bishop c5. Knight takes c5. That way you can go d4. And actually, bishop takes f2 check. There's king takes f2, and you'll get d4 anyway. So bishop b4 would be d takes c5. This is a theoretical line. The point was, if you took an e5 right away, the bishop takes back. Now after c5, your bishop moves, I take on your knight here. If your bishop doesn't move, I'm just going to take on d6. This is actually already quite a struggle. Oh gosh, you don't want to take with a pawn. These are not good. Really not good. And white has the bishop pair. So white has the bishop pair and the better pawn structure. That's not good. d5 is coming though. Queen b6. Queen b6 and d5. a6 a little too solid for my taste. And b5. But the thing is, bishop gets a b7, white goes d5, and good luck to your bishop ever seeing the light of day. Bishop g... Oh, wow. She baited the queen, knight d5. That was really nice. That was really nice. This game is going to conclude soon. Knight takes f6, or bishop takes, queen d2, queen f4 stuff. Oh, gosh. This is one of the worst pawn structures I've ever seen. And bishop to g5, bishop f4 first, before bishop g5. It baited the queen to e7, and then bishop g5 has knight d5 as a follow-up. That was some really excellent stuff. And I would play rook to d1 just so I don't drop my pawn on d4 and then play queen to f4. But rook c1. The knight is stuck here because of knight c7. She walked into it. Take a rook. Play d5. Oh, this bishop is hard to look at. Rook c7, rook c1, queen a5. All these moves can be played pretty quickly. Not that they need to because white is up on the clock. Rook takes d7 is a free pawn. But I like maintaining the tension here. This bishop can't move. Bishop takes b5 is possible. Rook d7 played. Now rook to c7. Ouch. Knight h8 only move. But knight h8 loses this. So rook takes b7. Rook to c7. f4. Rook takes f7. Oh, good. That was a good move though. Rook c8. And queen c1 is a really good response. Queen takes c7. Trade off the queens, the knight against a rook. I'm going back to that moment because that was really excellent stuff here. So instead of playing bishop g5 right away, when h6 does actually attack the bishop, bishop f4, queen e7. Padmini did not want to lose her pawn on d6. After bishop g5, now knight d5 is a vicious threat. After h6, it doesn't stop it. I know my bishop's under attack, but my knight is attacking your queen. And maybe from a practical point of view, takes, rook takes e7. It's very bad for black, but perhaps this was the best opportunity. 2 minor pieces for a queen. In bullet, things happen, but it was a lost position regardless. So let's go to Flawless Fighter, trying to win this position up a pawn, but she can't leave the 7th rank with her rook. And her king can't go to h3 because there was checkmate here. So g3 is a good move. She's going to try to take and bring the king in this way. King f5, smart. And how do you make progress here? The king is just cut off. Oh, I don't like that move. That move I really didn't like. King e3. At least start to bring your king closer. Rook d5, king g6. Then f5 check. I would play rook d5 check. Okay. But rook d5, there's always king e6. Oh, rook c5. What a trick. What a trick. Oh, gosh. That was nice. She brought the king up to d4 at the right moment so she can blockade on the c-file and get a queen. Let's look at that one more time. That was really good stuff there. So king to e3 and then rook c4. She made sure her king got to d4. And rook c3 was the blunder. That's the blunder. If you go rook c1, king d4, now I take this pawn. And my rook is still stuck to this pawn on c7. So by playing rook to c3, you allow king d4, you allow rook d5, and then in comes the rook to c5. That was really nice stuff. Flawless victory. All right, rook and bishop versus the rook and 2 pawns. These pawns are just going to start rolling, it feels like. This bishop is helpless for the time being. King e5, the bishop now comes back into the game. a3, a2, king a3. Is black going to win this game? King b2, king c1. I don't like that move. But rook b2? Uh-oh. Good move, bishop b4 check. Only move. Rook a3 now. b4. Play b4. Play rook e2. Sacrifice. You can sacrifice your rook for the bishop and push the pawns. This actually looks kind of scary. Bishop takes b3. And now black is actually up in exchange, but it's a theoretical draw. It's actually quite an easy theoretical draw. So I thought that black could have played a little differently to keep more pieces on the board and challenge white, but this is going to be a draw here. Bishop d5, king moves, king to d4, rook h6, rook g6, or it's a waiting move, king to e5, no check, go over there, bishop f7, king e8. Oh, no, 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 rook a8. You stay on the light squares. Oh my gosh, another commentator's curse. I'm the worst today. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You stay on the light squares, and the reason you stay on the light squares is that the king can never get opposition against your king, so you can't deliver a checkmate. If you go king f6, I move my bishop somewhere along the diagonal, and that way your king is never getting the e6. The only way to checkmate with a rook, as you've learned, is that you need a check on the last rank and king in opposition, taking away the remaining 3 squares. So by playing king to f8 here, you're actually walking right into checkmate, because now my king takes away your 3 squares. I only need to deliver 1 check. Bishop d5 doesn't help. Rook to d7. And I'm going to checkmate you on d8. So same thing would happen where your bishop goes here, and I just make a waiting move. Your king goes, and then I take your bishop. Oh, I'm the worst. I'm the worst. But 14 rounds are in the books. So we have one clear leader, that is Zhukova. We have Polina Shuvalova moving into 2nd place. And then many people in contention for the top 8 places in qualification into the knockout bracket. It's 14 rounds in the books. I'm going to take a quick break. The play will resume in just about 4 minutes from now. So stay tuned. Much more bullet ahead. And we are back with round 15, just getting underway. We see Harika Geronimovic playing d3, which I can only assume is a mouse slip, and mouse slips like that really only happen in bullet chess. Because I don't think she meant to go for this kind of King's Indian attack. It's ending up transitioning into a normal opening, but d3 on the first move, not something I've seen from Harika ever. So this setup is okay for white now. e5, there we go, knight f1, bishop f4, pawn h4. All these moves are actually quite easy to play. I think the King's Indian attack is easier for white to play than for black to defend. Because black wants to play on the queen side, a5, b5, a4, b4, kind of c4. You play for an initiative, otherwise you're getting sort of rolled over as the position is locked up. Ooh, that's a committal move, but maybe it's a good one. I feel like f6 is often a move that is scary to play, but she's getting away with it here. Knight g5, you can't play e5 because of this pawn. e5? There's bishop g5, I guess. Knight g4 now. Oh, that looks good. Rook b1, bishop c3, though. Alright, so actually she's fighting well here. Really well. f6 was well timed. I always thought that these positions should just be very natural for white to play and black has to be extra careful. But it feels like Zhukova, she understood the ins and outs better than I did, and she just played f6, broke open the position. She still has some things to figure out. Namely, this pawn e6 is going to be a target. Knight to e5. So what Harika is doing here is saying your bishop is really bad, and I have pressure on your e6 pawn. So rook e1, f4 coming next. Play f4 here for sure. This pawn is permanently weak. And actually f5 is a threat. I have 3 attackers down on your rook on e7. If you play bishop c8, I have bishop takes d5, so f5. She plays h5, but I like f5. Still f5. I wonder if the move is just not coming to her mind, because you tend not to want to try trade pawns. Bishop h3, bishop c8, and then play bishop g2 back. Hope she doesn't see bishop takes d5. I would really play my bishop back to this diagonal. So she's trying to take it. So you have to play bishop b7. She does it. Actually, there you could have played rook to d8. So with the bishop on c8, you can free up your rook. So I would maybe put my bishop back here at some point if you're able to now, and then put my rook, try to get my rook back to d8. But if the bishop's on f3, you can't get away with that. So king f8, protecting this piece. That makes f5 even more enticing because now the queen is in the same line as the king. Okay, look at... She's trying to infiltrate here. Queen c6 is possible. a4, a5. Play with a pawn down. This I don't like. Oh, actually I like queen takes e7 there. Queen takes e7 looked good, but this keeps an extra pawn. I thought queen e7 would have traded more pieces off. Good move. Bishop g2 to d5. This bishop is stuck, and it's been stuck here for like the whole game. King g1. Play king g1. Don't give up this pawn with check. Bishop f3 feels... Alright, queen takes a7. Ah, there's a pawn. Take it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, counter. So queen e2 or queen e8. Queen e8 now? King, maybe they'll make a draw because this king isn't very safe. But you can play queen e8, but then you're hanging a7. So that's the downside of playing queen to e8. They make a draw. That was a very back and forth battle. It felt like black should have had it there. So it wasn't really so much back and forth. It was just teetering between a draw and a win for black. Ooh, extra pawn here. We're getting endgame time. Need Dvoretsky's endgame manual. This pawn on d6, you want to push it. You want to get your queen to f6. The queen on f6 is perfectly placed because if the queen were on f6, it protects h4, f2, and the promotion score at the same time. So queen e5 check now. Can you go queen e8, d7? The thing is, there's a lot of checks. You have queen g1. The king goes out to f4. There's good. That's perfect. King f4 now. Now this should be good. There will be many checks here, and don't step into e5. If you go king e5, you lose. If the king goes here, there's queen to b2 check, picking up the queen. So don't go king e5. Queen d4, good move. King d5. I don't care about this pawn. Take that pawn. King c5 or king c6. Good decision by Shuvalova to give the checks. The queen can't help out yet. Queen d7, good. Queen a7. Queen, back to c8, okay. Wow, she's really found a crazy defense here. The king will have to go back to d2. But if king c3, there's taking her with check. So Oh, now queen c5? Queen d5? I don't know about d7. Queen g4, there's queen d4. Maybe that's just a good move. Queen f4, queen d4. King d3. Queen. If you go queen d8, you're all passive. Now you just need to figure out how to win this game. The queen can't move. Queen is stuck here. You need to be... I don't like that move. Go back to d6. Queen's going to e8. She made it work. No checks on this king. Not a single check. d8 equals queen. She did it. She did it. And now it's winning. For sure. With 2 queens here. No time. Wow, that was a crazy endgame. It felt like it should be good for white the whole time, but it was getting really close to a draw. So JoJo1608 wins that one by checkmate just as we tune in for it. Oh, next round underway. Okay. So we have c4 in the first move. Zhukova taking on Bela Kotinashvili. And Zhukova is in first, and Kotinashvili is in second, just a full point behind. And look at how many people have 10 out of 15. I see that Stefanova is there with 10 out of 15. Gunina is there with 10 out of 15. Chivakashvili. So many strong players. So they're trailing, but 6 rounds to go. We saw this... Didn't we see this in... Was it in Zhukova's game that we saw this earlier? This exact position. The bishop came to g5, and then black had gone h6. But here, knight g4 first, so there was no bishop g5. And this kind of position is very sturdy for black, but the bishop on g7 is bad. The knight on d4 is great. The bishop on g7 is bad. So it's a fight for the center here where there's a bad bishop on g7. So you don't have to take here yet, or maybe ever. But I would consider playing for b4 ideas. First she takes queen g4. If king h7, you may take here, play rook f3, rook h3, watch out. The king can be in harm's way. And I'm still looking for b4. Because when I take on d4, I want black to take with the e pawn, I think. So rook swings, b5, good. You need some counterplay. You can't just sit and watch white come and attack you here. h4, h5 doesn't really amount to much. So you don't have to be worried about that. But bishop takes, queen e6 check. Isn't this f6 pawn in trouble? So I think the f6 pawn... Well, now you can just capture it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, rook takes f6. Take again with the rook. Keep this problem alive. Rook takes f6. Oh, I like keeping the queens on the board. It felt like the black king was very unsafe there. But I acknowledge that there was perhaps a struggle down the d file she didn't want to worry about. So king to g7. Rook to b6. Good move. Now you're threatening this b5 pawn. Take here and take a bunch of times in b5. That's a big decision. You have to take with the e pawn now, but that's okay. This pawn's hard to get to. Very hard pawn to get to. So this bishop is going to try to reroute itself. Bishop h4 or bishop g3. That's probably just as good. Rook b5 is possible, but then I'm looking at rook to d7. Rook d7 now. You need to get some activity. You can't just sit and watch your position fall apart. Rook d7. There it is. Here comes the rook to d2. And here it's the queen side's under attack. Rook takes b2. Rook takes e5. Or rook takes e6. Rook c6. And then bishop e5. She plays rook takes e5, which is what I suggested first. But rook takes c6, one apiece there. And now all of a sudden the a2 pawn's in trouble. So play c5. Oh, you can play c5. Your rook was hanging. But now c5 is played to play bishop c4 with rook a1. Bishop c4. She walked into it. Oh no. She walked into it and now her rook is lost. Now it's just going to be a struggle here for black. Bishop on d5 trying to help c6 happen. Now these pawns are stopped. They can't even move anywhere. And white's pawn is actually the mobile pawn. Wow, 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 wow. Here, just to go back, rook takes c6 was best because the idea is bishop takes e5 with check, picking up this rook on b2. So you steal the knight first. Rook takes e5 was ignored. The rook came over. And then when you have this kind of position, let me just go back to the game there. You have this position here. Just missed this move. Rook a1 gets the rook to safety. But I understand why bishop d7 was played to get more active. But unfortunately, this check was on the docket. So that's a win for Zhukova. She continues to be impressive here. And now Alina Kashinskaya is trying to hold this position in an endgame now 2 pawns, and they're split pawns. The rook is not going to be able to handle them both, I don't think. So rook h4. She's going to give a check. Is that her idea? A check and back, but it's Daisy Corey. Haven't seen her name on the leaderboard today, but she's about to win and go to 12 points out of 16 games. Wow. These players are right up there. Now this king is now queen c3, take the rook. Yeah, Daisy Corey didn't need much help figuring that one out. So that's a victory for Corey. And let's keep going. Ooh, Vaishali. She only has 10, well, only, as if that's a bad score. She only has 10.5 points right now. And she's going to try to stalemate her own king, but it's not going to work. King to b1. She wanted to bring her king down to a1 and stalemate herself, but this is now just simple rook. Bring the rook to c2. Going file by file. It's pretty funny. King e2. King f2. And rook h3 mate. Very nice. Very, very nice there. And poor Vaishali, she's struggled recently. After leading the tournament, she now is finding herself still in contention, but not in the top 8 places. All right, bishop takes there. Take on e3. We're just going to make a draw here. All right, draw agreed. And now black winning here. Quattroporte. Let's see who that is. That is Katarzyna Dulovich. Okay, up a queen and winning. So now we have 16 rounds in the books. Zhukova with 13.5. There are 5 rounds remaining. So she hasn't quite locked up a qualification spot, but she's getting very close. I think if she wins this game, she's almost guaranteed a spot with 14.5 points. Unclear. But okay, she takes on Daisy Corey. Daisy Corey now in 2nd place. Where did she come from? I don't know how she started the tournament, but she wasn't at the top of the leaderboard until this moment where she's now in 2nd place, and she can try to help. Well, I'm trying to think about this. Other people probably want her to lose because they think that Zhukova is going to qualify to the top 8 no matter what. So they would want Daisy Corey to lose so that they can catch up to her. So it's funny how this works. Sometimes you want that person, the trailing person, to beat the leader so you can have a chance to win 1st place. But it's just about getting in the top 8 places. So everybody's rooting against each other. So they're a lot of them are friends, but you can only be friends off the board when it's about your qualification here. You want to just be objective. Do what's best for you. So knight takes c4, rook takes c4, b5. That was possible. This knight is good here. I don't really like the knight being on a4 though. b5, good. Takes. Take here. The d5 square is now black's under black's control. So knight c5. Bring the knight in. You don't want to be passive here. So bring the knight to c5. Attacks the bishop on b7. And this bishop not doing all that much. This bishop is stronger though on b1. And this d5 square though. That's a really good square for black's pieces. Queen d5. Don't take this and open up the bishop. That would be a big mistake. It looks like you win a pawn, but you're opening this bishop into an attack. The bishop on b2 is a bad piece because this pawn on d4 is here. So do not go take on c5 unless you have to, or it gives you a clear benefit. There's a potential mating attack down on g2, so taking on a2. Give me that pawn, she says. Knight to b3, then there's some kind of bishop move, so that's a little dangerous. Okay, so now that's a good move though. d5 is coming. d5 is coming. Watch out for this. Wait, no, take this. There's no queen b8 because rook comes back to d8, but queen e5. Oh man, there came d5. I think that's all she needed here. f6. There's queen takes e6. So play queen takes a1, but then rook takes a1, and this bishop is under attack. The bishop, we're not. Wait, do that. Queen a1 and bishop takes d5. That's actually a really good try. Now this is not going to help you. This is not going to help you. Queen takes e6, queen takes d7. This is going to be winning for Daisy Corey. Oh, the queens got traded. So maybe not so easy. Maybe she found a stubborn defense. I think the queen sack would have given her the best chance, but she still has hope here because with the queens off in this endgame, the king is stuck on f8. If the king goes to f7, you have bishop to b4. The bishop will be pinned. So the king has to stay over here, and now white will move up. King to e3. Don't move your bishop and allow bishop c5 check. That would be the one blunder possible here. So the king moved back. Rook c7, bishop c5. And now she's trying to move in. King to d4. Oh, rook g7 here. King f4, g4. Now there's an outside pass pawn. Push it. That's it. h6, h7. So that was a really tough game, and Zhukova had a great position. She went wrong at a critical moment, but I want to go back because I really believe that in this position, queen takes a1, either queen or rook takes a1, bishop takes d5, gives black great chances to hold. As long as this rook doesn't give a checkmate, and if we trade off the rook, say rook b1, rook d8, and something like this happens, I mean, black is so solid. You put a bishop on f6, and then maybe this pawn can actually start pushing down the board. So white would not want to trade rooks, but I think the queen sack for the bishop was optimal. And we have flawless fighter. It's Shuvalova taking on Gunina. Gunina is about to promote, and she wins the game. She moves on to 12 points. Irina Bulmaga with the black pieces here. Wait, the knight stops the pawn, so f2, 93. And Tokira Yunova with white. We've seen her in the knockout 2 days ago, and here she's going to hold on. Bring knight to d2. She's repeating, makes a draw. Fair result, at least from when we tuned in. Karina Chess at 9.5 points. So it's been a struggle for her since a strong start. And this rook is coming to b2. And this king is coming to b1. And that pawn is promoting. But you're going to lose this pawn on f4 in the process. So rook h2 now. Wrong move order by white. Because now this king just darts back here. Just bring the king back. And now the king's not even shouldering the other king. You want to shoulder your opponent's king. King e5 now. Game over. Rook g1 check. King to f6. That is, sadly, for Karina, she just... Yeah, this is checkmate. Just to go back there one last time, that around here, you have to take this pawn first. Because then rook h2, you have king g5, and this rook is going to have to sacrifice the pawn. So you had to be vigilant for that. We're into the next round. We have Zhukova taking on Alina Kashinskaya. I know there's a lot of Alina fans because she played very well at the IM9 GM Speeches Championship. And we're on 18. So I'll keep this game open. I'm just trying to look at the standings, see what's going on here. So 8th place has 12 out of 17. So Alina is just inside the bracket. She really doesn't want to lose this game. We have a sharp position stemming from Benoni, where you have this weak pawn on d6, but black is ahead in development, is castled already, and is putting some pressure down the middle of the board. Watch out. Bishop takes h6. Oh, there's knight to e4. That's a nice tactic. If this bishop ever takes an e6, you have knight e4 when the king wasn't castled, because queen h4 would have been check. But now bishop h6 is still a move. It's been hanging there for a while. I think you got to take it. She takes on b5 instead. Now the rook's coming to b8. Watch out for the pawn on b2. Uh-oh. This knight needs to move out the way. And then this pawn on b2 is in trouble. But white will play b3 next. So I'm trying to get like some kind of knight takes e4, pawn takes e4, rook takes b2 tactic. And the point is the bishop actually kind of defends the rook through all the pieces. b3 is strong, the knight protects. I think that Zhukova is very happy with how this game has gone thus far. An extra pawn for white, no risk on the king side. The bishop pair. Black isn't in complete trouble just yet, but it is a good position for white, that's for sure. So let's go to the next game. We'll maybe be back here. We have Daisy Corey now with 13 points taking on Harika Jarnavalli. It looks like a position where white is going to go knight to d5, but then black would consider taking on b2 and taking on d5, and having this knight on g4 be a very good piece. So I like knight to e2. Instead of allowing this bishop an easy trade, you get f5 in. It's getting dangerous. You trade bishops. put a knight on f4, all of a sudden white is the one who's trying to attack. What about rook takes a2 here? That bishop is pinned, so fe6, take on g7 for sure, knight f4. Or e takes f5, and this rook is hanging. Didn't even notice that at first. Oh gosh, everything is opening up. The floodgates. This. Knight c6 is possible. This knight on d4 is a good defender too. You need this. Watch out for c5 though. c5, knight f5 check, and the king has to go to g8. And there's played. So what now? Queen e7 comes to mind. This was better. Queen e6. Knight takes d6 was possible. But we see a trade. This knight is really strong here. That's a great knight. Can't kick it out. It's protected by a pawn. I actually think that black is going to be better in this game. There's going to be some knight g4 opportunities. Queen b7 check is one check. King h6. And once the king's on h6, it's perfectly safe. So white is all sorts of tied down. And they make a draw. Okay, fair. We have this position now. Alina with the black pieces. She's down a pawn, but her king is coming up to f5, and this pawn on f4 is in some trouble. I think that this game should end in a draw, and they're offering exchanges. Rook d4. Alina wants more. Bishop takes f4. I like the decision. Okay, well now she's trading, so she doesn't want more. She just wants to draw. King d4. King d4. But you got nothing here. Maybe you can go like g4. One last attempt. Yeah, it's a draw. This is too solid. Opposite colored bishops. Can't kick anything out over here. Just shuffling kings. We have Zagnidze taking on a compatriot, Nino Kameriki. And rook f8, rook takes d2. How many extra pawns does white have? Too many. Or in this case, for many. g7, going to promote. Rook check, kick the king away, king h8. And then next move is getting queen. So Zagnidze moving on up in the rankings. Here we have Lile Koridze. Just go knight h2, pre-move knight h2, knight f1. Or knight d2, knight e4. Whatever it is. You can just pre-move that, take on g3. You're winning this position. You have plenty of time left. 10 seconds with the increment. Too much time. And that will move Lile Koridze to 12 out of 18 in striking distance of the top 8 places. And it looks like, actually, in addition to being down knight and a pawn, white's internet is giving out. So finally, king g1 played. And lost on time. So, just a couple games left. Oh. Trying to go for a cheeky stalemate. But not happening. That's mate. And black wins this one. And what's so many extra pawns and queens now. So we're going to move to round 19. And then after round 19, there will be a break. There will be a break. Thank you for the comments. I appreciate that. So we have Gunina taking on Zhukova. So Gunina has found her way back towards the top of the leaderboard with 13 out of 18. And with the white pieces here, she probably doesn't want to take too much of a risk, because losing this game will be very bad for her, as the players will catch up to her. But she also would like to get a win over Zhukova and then fight for those top couple places. That way she can, ensure herself that she will be able to qualify. You don't want to play too passively, too solidly. You need to just play your best. Just queen f4 here. This is theory. This is Kramnik versus Wesley So from the 2016 candidates. It's got Dominguez, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave written all over it. This position now is like this mainline theory where there are two money pieces, a couple pawns have been traded. Black has control of the c-file, has the advantage in the long-term endgame, but white has opportunities to push pawns in the center. So bishop b5. You can take on d7 and play knight e5, but it seems like Gunina is trying to allow e d5 and then e5 thematic. You can also just take back on d5, but these kind of e5, e6 maneuvers are very common here. But e5, black will play knight f8. So she takes first. She hung a knight. She hung a knight in the center. Oh no. I mean, that pawn on d4 was there protecting the e5 square. But as soon as she went d5, the e5 square was left unprotected. And she still has some chances just because if she can take b6... Oh, she's not taking b6 now. But I was going to say, if she could trade off the queenside pawns and win the central pawn, some of these endgames, even if a bishop, will not be easy to win. But with the presence of a pawn a2, this not, and especially still keeping this d pawn, should be very easy. So I think that Zhukova has this one locked up. I'm going to move on to the next game between Daisy Corey and Pomegranate, who is Bela Kotinashvili. I was like trying to remember. There's so many Georgian players towards the top, and in my head I'm mixing them all together. I know Liliani is Nana Zagnidze. E5, the d5 square is now available to this knight, and knight e3 didn't like that. You ruin your pawn structure, but you still will be able to play knight to d5 in the near future. And if you get the knight to d5 and force the capture, you undouble your pawns with e takes d5. But knight d5, bishop takes, pawn takes. Okay, we're going to see this, and I think e4. Cut the bishop off in the defense of this pawn. Good move, e4. Queen b5 is a good try, but now this e3 pawn is black's for the taking. Queen on e5 is nice. It puts pressure over here. d5 is lost. Here comes f5. f5, don't play f5 because rook d1. And now you're going to be only up one pawn. Oh, no pawns. Wow, somehow Bela Kotinashvili, she made her way out of this b3. Okay, puts pawn to a6. You can't lose this position. With bishops of opposite color, you can't kick this king off the light squares. So h3, g4, or king f5 right now. Doesn't really matter. Bishop c8, bishop d5. Can't make any progress. The opposite color bishops mean that you're fighting for different squares, and here you see that they're going to shuffle back and forth. Nothing's going to happen. So let me look for other games here. We have Leila Jivakashvili. Whoa, this one is crazy complex. Zagnidze with the black pieces. She has two minor pieces and two pawns. And look at this. That's great configuration. That's important to protect that pawn there. I think that black is better here, but there's some opportunity. If these pawns start collapsing, watch out. And she takes here. Probably a good practical decision, especially with 3 seconds left for black. Put this rook on d5. Knight b5, rook to d5. Make sure you never lose this h5 pawn. She takes here first, and then she can play for rook to d5. Queen e7, queen e5. Oh, queen e5 was better, winning the h-pawn. Good move, king a6. She recognized it. Now rook d5. Now black should never be able to lose this game. You can just shuffle around forever, and you won't be in any trouble. She plays c5, king c7, king c6 coming, knight to d6. The knight is an excellent blockading piece. This rook on d5 is stellar. This pawn is pushing. This pawn can push after it. This is well done here. Oh, queen a7. Or queen a5 even better. Knight to, look at this. The knight is an excellent blockader. I'll talk about this a little bit more. Black won on time. But the knight is a great blockader because even if this pawn were not here, the knight covers all possible checks when it's in between a queen and a king. Covers this square, covers this square, covers here, covers here. So even if these B and C pawns were not here, the knight is amazing in defense, and black won this one on time, but was winning in position anyway. What's going on here? We have an endgame. The king can't get to g5. You would like to play king f5, king g5, but the bishop cuts the king's access. The bishop is moved, but it doesn't really matter. This is an h-pawn promoting square, and it's a dark square bishop. So even if you're able to win the h-pawn, it's still going to be a draw. In fact, bishop takes f4 is a draw regardless. Wrong promotion square, wrong bishop. So the pawn is going to be captured on h5, and it's kind of like good for you. I would just play king in this box forever. Bishop takes f4 and king h4. Draw. There it is. You don't even need the king to go to h4. You can win back to h1, but it's a draw. Okay, one last game. Oh. This is just checkmate. And Oksana 33 has suddenly gone into the mix with 12 points out of 19. A little bit far, Oksana Golubeva. but has a chance to come back. I'm going to take a quick break. 19 rounds are in the books. The players get a couple minutes to relax. We will see the final 2 rounds just after this short break. So stay tuned, everybody. Just 2 rounds remaining before the knockout. And we are back for the final 2 rounds. The players get a little bit of a break, and also the fair play team gets to ensure that everything is going smoothly. It is. So we are back, and we have this game between Zhukova and Zagnidze. Zagnidze is in a tie for third through 6th place, and I see some names up there that I haven't seen quite regularly. So clear that some players are going on hot streaks towards the end of this Swiss event, and the top 8 people move on for knockout. So cool to see some players here. Let's go see Crazy Girl 99. Let's try to see that game, because it feels like Tokyo Yanova, she did well in the first day. We mentioned her one time earlier today, and now she's back towards the top of the standings. Okay, her position looks quite solid with black against Harika Dronavali, but we'll see how that one continues. We'll go back to Zhukova versus Zagnidze here. E4 played, very committal move. If black is able to move this knight to, say, c6, you control the d4 square, but because these knights are on b6 and f6, d4 is out of your control. Rook to d1, pawn to d4. It allows white to open up the position. a4, a5 is the idea. Ooh, could be very big trouble for black on a5. If you trade queens, knight takes b5, knight c7 is check. Now you drop this pawn on c4. Knight to e5 played. Okay, there's still knight to c7. I think you got a castle. And if you take on c4, you lose e4. So a6, I would take on a6 and play knight takes e4. Just you have to take this pawn, I think. Actually, there are problems with that too, because there will be knight c7, knight c6. Ah. Oh wait, this knight protects the bishop. So knight d6 played. That unfortunately isn't going to get it done. It's not going to get it done. Now white is up. Currently 2 pawns, but b7 is going to fall most likely. I think b4 is a good move, though. Bishop d4. Nice. So d3, bishop f4, pinning this knight to the rook. Take this knight. Oh, that's beautiful. Take on c5. You win a piece. That is really good tactical vision by Zhukova. She is a force. Just go back here for a second. d4, bishop b4, knight c6. Rook takes b7. Thank you for your piece. And after this, your knight is going to be taken because you take my knight, I take yours while hitting both of your rooks. Dang. She's really playing excellent bullet chess today. So look at Daisy Corey versus Valentina Gunina. Gunina's down a rook. Gunina's down an entire rook. So Daisy Corey, as soon as she converts this, she will lock up a spot in the knockout. Yeah, she's up a clean rook. So let's move on from this one. I'll be shocked if anything besides a win for Daisy Corey happens there. Knight to c1. So Harika Janavai now is up an exchange and a pawn. This a pawn is also about to be lost. Rook a5. This knight can actually move. So take it. Now rook b2 if you allow me. Rook c2. White wins the game. Harika Janavai moves at 14.5 points. She's getting close to locking up a spot. I'll have to see how all the other results go. So let's go to this game here. And white is up in exchange, but black has an extra 2 pawns. And there's a great 2 pawns. Oh my gosh, there was a crazy little tactic there. But it might not have worked out, so... it would not have worked out, actually. So I was getting excited for tactics that didn't work. If your opponent plays into your hands, then it would have. So here, black is going to try to start pushing the pawns. Watch out for rook takes d4 if the knight were to move. So rook c4, this is protected here. King to d5. c4. Now this is a problem. King c5. Knight to check, also good. Knight to d4. Rook e2. Okay. Didn't want to take that, understandably. Uh-oh. Rook c7 check. King d6. And king e6 now? Play king e6. Attack the rook there. It's going to be a draw. Oh, knight e3. Knight a3. Ah, knight b4 is not right. Wait, d2? Oh my gosh. No, d2 you lose the rook. Oh my gosh, white won this game. Just like around here, it just got so tricky and she couldn't figure out a way. But she was much better with her knight and 2 pawns here. Wow, what a fight. Way to be resourceful. No way! I am the ultimate jinx today. How? How? Wasn't... Where did the rook go? Rook took the bishop. That's where the rook went, trying to promote the pawn. Oh my gosh, she just forgot her bishop was hanging. She thought her pawn would push free. She had 22 seconds. She had so much time here. It's a shame. And then she lost that, and then we get to a position where... Wait, but white's still up 2 pawns. The rook, though, is tied down to the defense of h3. That's unfortunate. I think it won't end up mattering all that much for Daisy Corey because she is 14.5, and there's a tie all the way down to 13th place with 13.5. So I think she's good because her tiebreaks will probably be excellent, but not the results you wanted. That's for sure. And Gunina can breathe a sigh of relief, but she cannot afford to lose this game. That's for sure. All these players are top. So these 2 players, Bodnaruk and Zhukova, doing pretty well. If I'm white, I'm just trying to make a draw to get to 14.5. You can't lose this game. So let's go to Gunina versus Harika Janavali because Gunina needs to win this game. I'm going to try to look at as many games as possible. It's hard. It's a bullet game. A lot of people on 13.5. That's right. So I think Gunina has a good start to this game. Black is overextended on the king side. This pawn g5 means that there will be some vulnerabilities here, especially if I play f4 or h4, trying to crack open the position. And b3 is always going to be good. You take away this pawn off the diagonal. Now knight d5. If the pawn were on b2, there would be a rook takes b2 at the end. But here, everything's closed. This side of the board is opened up. I think black should win bishop to b5. Less space, so trading pieces. would have worked out. I think bishop b5 still is a good move. So you can take, try to go rook b4, play pawn c4 in the future. And, all right, queen on f6. This is good, going for the c3 square. And you can go to f4. So, all right, let's keep on going. Let's go to Dacey versus Nuryu Salimova. We have a position that is quite complex. There's a bunch of underlying tension here. Knight takes e4 will not work. This bishop on e7 is under attack. So queen to b6. Is e5 just a winning move now? e5 because the knight is pinned, and if you go knight to d5, I take you here, and then your bishop falls on e7. So that looks like a problem for black. And I think she's totally overlooked it. Dacey Corey, she will move on, and she already was in good position anyway. We have Alina Kashinskaya with the black pieces taking on Tokyo Yanova, and f4 played, getting adventurous here. That could backfire because the king on g2 on a light square, you're in a fianchetto diagonal with no fianchetto bishop. Rook takes f5 here. She plays queen takes f5, anticipating a queen trade on e5. You have to trade. The pawn g3 is under attack. Now c3 is under attack. This is a very committal move. I would take on f1. Maybe just rook d6 first, actually. You don't mind a trade of rooks. Rook d6. Bring this rook over to a6. Oh, gosh, she blundered a pawn. She took with the king. Taking with the king was not correct. You can tell that very clearly here. And bring the rook up. I think the rook needs to help in this position because otherwise you're just up a pawn without any sort of plan. She's going for the outside pass pawn, but knight h4 protects the pawn. So it looks like Zhukova beat Bodnaruk on the top board. So for Vesper 2018, she was at 14 out of 21. That probably doesn't get it done. Wait, there's a pin along the d5. Bishop f6, thank you. And that wins the game because rook takes d4 now. Just bishop takes d4 just so her pawn a7 is protected. It looks like Alina Kashinskaya is going to win this game and secure her place in the knockout with a victory. So just, she's doing well on the clock. I feel positive that the I Am Not GM Speeches Championship has helped her because she was playing at this exact time control. And even though she ended up losing in the final to John Bartholomew, you get that experience. You get just kind of used to playing bullet with an increment. Who else is towards the top here? Players are jockeying for position. We have Pomegranate against her compatriot. So what is going on here? One pawn fell. This pawn on d5 now can be taken as well. This h-pawn, you want to get a runner here. This pawn a7 is protected, so don't think you're losing that one. Bishop f2 check. I would not even protect the pawn. She plays it to protect it right away, but I would have enticed my opponent into taking it to have this bishop check. Rook takes a7 is going to be possible, including right now, but then you're worried about h3, h2. So you bring the rook back to h8, rook check, king g1. Bring the king closer to the pawn. Bring your king to h1. You want to sit in the corner. King g4. This is actually a potential mating attack. But watch out. Rook g, don't king h3. King h3 is mate with bishop e6. So you have to avoid just getting mated on the light squares. That could be a problem. Bishop f4, very good move. There's actually checkmate ideas. Rook b2, threatening rook b1 mate. Oh my gosh. Bishop d1 check. Bishop d5 check. King to g3 is possible. Wait, you could take this pawn. That pawn was hanging. Rook e4. Oh, wait. Oh gosh, she blundered the bishop in the center. So it looks like Bela Kotenashvili is going to lose this game. And Ninulia with the black pieces. She takes another rook. Oh my gosh, checkmate on b1, next move. Everything just that could go right for black did. And now let's go back to Alina Kashinskaya because there's some danger of stalemates here. That's the one thing I'd be very careful about. In fact, there are many positions where there are stalemate ideas. Nothing yet. Nothing yet. She lost the pawn. She lost the pawn. She's going to have to win rook. She actually has a great position, though. Rook takes f4. Rook takes f4. Oh my gosh, Alina blundered. And now it's a draw. And I don't think she'll qualify. Oh my gosh, she's tied with 14 points. And she's... We'll see as the standings update. Where is she? Oh, she has good tie breaks. But there's one game left. There's one game left. That was a scary finish to this event. We'll see how the tie breaks end up there. But there's a big tie with 14 out of 21. This is the last game remaining. This one was won here. And we'll see the final results. Let's see them pop up. And it's a scary moment for these players who are, okay, it's there. So Alina Kashinskaya makes it through in 7th place. Mindhunter, who started off really well, finishes in 8th place. And then as you see, unfortunately for Tokyo Nova, she's on the outside looking in with 14 points. Vesper 2018 lost to Zhukova. Zhukova had an amazing event. So we are going to see we are going to see these top 8 players: Zhukova, Daisy Corey, Valentina Gunina. That is Zagnidze in 4th place. Ninulia with that last round upset over her compatriot. She's playing some great bullet today. And that's Harika Dranavalia in the 6th seed. Alina Kashinskaya at 7. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So this is some crazy stuff. I didn't expect all this to happen, but now that it has happened, pretty cool to see. Okay, so let me just pull everything up here, make sure that I have that this is a Zoom call to ensure fair play. Let me just grab that, make sure that we have all the players. Wow, some of them have really cool backgrounds. In fact, Natalia Zhukova has a really cool background. Well, I'll show that in a bit. But for now, just making sure that all of the players are set as they get ready for the knockout. Because 8 players, the top 2, so you just have to win 2 matches. I mean, just as if it's an easy task. But you win 2 matches, you make it through, you are qualified for the WSCC. And I'm just waiting for word from the staff just to make sure. That is funny. That is funny that everyone up there has diamonds next to their name except for Vanina 1989. I don't know why that is. But obviously she is completely worthy of the diamond. So maybe she did it on purpose. Maybe she wanted to stand out in the crowd. But, okay, we have our top 8. Let me pull up as we transition here to the bracket portion of things. You see the matchups on screen now. Natalia Zhukova, she was the 1 seed. Gunay Mamadzada is the 8th seed, so they take on each other. Nana Zagnidze takes on Nino Komerki. Nino was great. She beat plenty of her compatriots, including the final round, to qualify. Daisy Corey taking on Alina Kashinskaya, and Valentina Gunina versus Harika Dranavalia. So this is pretty cool. Some really great matchups here. In particular, the last matchup, Harika versus Valentina Gunina there, that is a GM battle that you would see in many of the top events. So we'll see how they play in bullet chess. It's a very different feel, of course, than classical or anything of the sort. So let me just make sure I'm all ready to follow the players as they will begin relatively soon. They're just getting set up in a fair play call, and I will follow players from each matchup so that all of the action, or at least as much of the action as possible, can be covered. When you have bullet chess, good luck to me, right? I need it. But also good luck to the players, because it's going to be very tough for them. A 2-game mini match. You need to score 1.5 out of 2. Otherwise, we get into a tiebreaker. So let's it's going to be fun. I'm ready for it. The players are getting ready for it. So let's this is fun. It's really fun for me to be able to cover this bullet event. It's a great competition. The qualifiers have been so much fun. Tomorrow will be 2 rounds later, the start. It'll be at 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's noon Eastern time. I'm not sure where everybody else is, but you can do the math from there. And it'll be 5-minute plus 1 second increment again. So that will be 9 rounds of 5-minute. And they're just setting up the players. So that is just being taken care of. Wow, 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 wow. So the players, I have their cameras. Some of the players we've seen every day. Like Gunina keeps qualifying for the knockout. I'm sure at this point she just wants to qualify already. It's getting probably a little frustrating to be on the cusp of qualification, make it to the knockouts, and then to not make it through. But the players are almost set. I am seeing there. And we will have just a bullet brawl, a marathon of bullet games ahead. The games will start in about a minute. They're all aware of what's at stake here, and they are now all there. So one player was just trying to join the call and now is in. And all right, well, the tiebreak will again be Armageddon. So that's the decider. Black will get draw odds in Armageddon with 4 minutes, and white gets 5 minutes in that case and has to win. Harika versus Valentina is the matchup you're looking for. Well, that's a matchup I think everyone should be excited about. Grandmasters taking on each other in bullet chess. Pretty fun stuff. So I'm going to keep an eye on the players here. Harika, you know when players get on camera and they forget that they're on camera, they start sinking down? That's what's happening. So the games are about to begin. Games starting any moment now. I'm pumped for it. And we will start with that matchup between Valentina Gunina and Harika Janavali, because that one is clearly one that is going to be exciting. So let's see how this one unfolds. And we have Gunina on camera for you. Let's pull up her game here. Oh, wait. They're playing 3 minute. Why are they all playing 3 minute? The time control is all wrong. Hold up. Getting used to that time control from yesterday. So let's, I think the games will all be stopped and restarted. I think after so much bullet, you get into the mindset of, oh, wait, yesterday we played that 3 minute time control for the tiebreaker. Let's do that again. So I think the games are about to be stopped and started again with bullet time controls rather than 3 minute. So the players, you can tell, they're like, wait, what's going on? Let's go back to bullet. I'm going to take them off camera just for a moment. Games have been aborted. And so we'll get back here. But these things happen. When you're going from 5 minute, then a 3 minute time control, then a 1 minute time control, sometimes wires get crossed and you start the wrong one. So I think now everything will be good. The players will be ready. They'll, won't be confused. Like, hey, how come I have so much time this game? Like, I don't remember this being the format in the 21 rounds that just played. So yeah, all those games were stopped, and the 1 minute games will go in just a moment now. So I was like, wait, there's so much time for these players. I'm not supposed to commentate this. Wrong event. But no, I got to give a shout out to the staff working behind the scenes, because day after day, working extremely hard, trying to make sure that all the players are in the Zoom call, that they're sharing their screens, that everything is set, taking a look around the room to make sure that nobody's there and potentially giving help. Just the protocol is in place to ensure that there's just not even a modicum of suspicion. And so everyone knows what's at stake here. Everyone is abiding by the regulations. And we do have liftoff in all 4 games. So let's bring Valentina back on screen here. We have her in the white side of this position against Harika, who's playing a solid approach. We've seen this H6. G5. Okay, I was saying this was solid. This is now getting aggressive. Watch out for a timely G4 to undermine the defense of the pawn on D4. So here... Oh, G4? She walked right into it. There it is, G4. She lost a pawn here. It's not the end of the world, because look at Black's pieces. I mean, what is this here on the last rank? All the pieces are stuck here. That doesn't look very good, but I think you have to take on D4. You just committed to pawn G4. I see that knight F5 is coming. I would play knight F5 immediately. If you take on F5, I take back. And this knight on F8 is stuck. So that's a problem. H5 play to protect. Bishop C2. This king is not a good king. You're going to have to move your queen and get the king castle queenside, but I feel like already F3 was something to look for. Just keep breaking open the position. Knight to E4 makes sense. Knight F6 here is a move I like. Finish your development. Queen C7, castle long. And even if you castle long, white will play rook to B1, B4, B5. The potential for the attack does not end just because the king went to the queenside. So I'm actually, at the start of this, thinking that it's still very much a game here. A lot of life left. We'll go to some of the other games for now just to see what's happening there. We have Alina Kashinskaya with the black pieces. Let me flip the board for you. She is the black pieces. Her knight's on c4. Now it takes on a3. And after rook e3, bc5, you have pawns that are connected, and you have an isolated pawn here. But knight takes d5. Wait, that's a pawn. You can take that pawn right now. It looks like Daisy Corey here has an opportunity to steal this pawn right now. And her background is always really cool. So let's try to get her on stream now. Daisy Corey with the chess pieces. The virtual background, this rook on d5, very strong. The queen, the rook, the pawn here. The one thing that's not in the game really is rook on a3. So I'm black. I'm playing rook to b4. Rook b4 hits c4, hits a4, puts pressure on h4. But bring this rook here. The c5 pawn is now defended. Okay, she brings the rook to b8. Watch out for some kind of rook c1, rook b1, trying to get an attack. That's not really going to happen. So rook to d8, rook to d7. Here, rook to d6. Bring this rook to d6. How are you going to protect f7 without trading queens? Queen f5. You have to. Only move. Queen e8. Oh my gosh, I guess you didn't have to. Queen f6 check. Where's the mate? Where's the mate? The king, queen g5? Rook takes g6. No, it doesn't work. Just h takes g6. I'm trying to find a checkmate. Now rook takes g6? That might work. Rook g6 works. Oh my gosh, queen f4 trades the queens and hangs f2. And then you get checkmated. Rook takes f2. You had to go to the g-pawn. Rook h1. King g4 is f5 is mate. It's mate. This turned around. Oh my gosh. And I just need to show that very quickly here. That there was rook takes g6 check. If pawn takes queen, oh, no time to show it. But unfortunately for Daisy Corey, she loses this game and she has to win with the black pieces. So that was the first result of the first round. That was a crazy game there. Let us go on to the game between Zagnidze and Nino Komariki here, because Nino has been solid all day. 3 seconds left, she has to move. She gives a check. She is down a pawn, and it's a pass pawn. And the knight is doing well against the bishop, but the bishop is trying to take this pawn on d4. And if you get that pawn, you even up the material, you should be okay. Bishop f8, kicking the rook. Can't go back to g7. The f7 pawn was hanging. Look at Zagnidze taking advantage of this one opportunity there to take the f7 pawn. And now it feels like black's pieces are tied down. The g6 pawn can be captured. And if this king can run up the board and even take this pawn h6, this king on g8 is stuck. Watch out for bishop g1, knight f3. Oh, king g4 was played instead. But knight f3 actually protected. Knight f7 goes after the h6 pawn. So, ooh, knight back. You could have taken on h6. Rook d7. Or bring the king to e4 feels smart. How about g4, g5? Bring that pawn up the board. Rook e3 check. Take on g3. Then push the b pawn. You have to. You can't just sit and do nothing here. Rook c3 is almost mate the king's b5. And now d3. Rook d7. Great move. This pawn is lost. Wow, Zagnidze has really just been able to hold this together. Just barely. And rook c1 check is not possible because the knight is there. And she takes the h-pawn. So now white is up a pawn at b5. Push that pawn. Push that pawn. And it looks like, wow, Mamadzada wins against Zhukova in their first game. I'm trying to do as best I can. It looks like Dronavali, Harika, she won her first one against Gunina. Take on e6. Rook d6, knight e4 check. If the king goes to c3, so the king goes here. Now king c6. And then push the pawn. b5, b6, rook d6 to block the check. This is winning. So let us go to the round 2 of action between these players. Let's go to Daisy Corey. That game we just were looking at was going to be a win for Zagnidze. So let's go to this game between Daisy Corey. She needs to win with the black pieces. Queen e7. This queen is actually traded by force. That's a problem. That's a problem. And there we see a win for Alina Kashinskaya. She moves on to the semis. We'll look at... Wait, it's 1-1, and they're already playing another bullet game. So they're going to have to get to a tie break. They're going to have to get to a tie break. It's 1-1 right now, and they're playing more bullet. But I think the tie break isn't in bullet. Everything is happening so fast. So let's look... Are all of the other matches done? No, Zagnidze and Komariki need to start their second game. And Zhukova and Mamadzada need to start their second. So I think that this is not the tiebreak, but they just are rematching each other. And so the games went underway. So this match here with game 3 underway, I don't think that the tiebreak is another bullet game. I do believe it is an Armageddon match where white gets 5 minutes, black gets 4 minutes. But the players in Zagnidze and Komariki, see this game was aborted here. it looks like Alina Kashinskaya has moved on, and Zagnidze has a lead. Mamanzada has a lead, but round 2 has to begin. So the players have not rematched each other, and they need to do so. And there's a lot to do here. So I know that when games start and have to be ended, it's because it's bullet chess. The players are starting their new games before anybody can even get to them, and then now they're so focused on their games that it's hard to get their attention. But they were able to get their attention, and now the games have stopped there. But Zhukova and Mamanzada need to start game 2, as do Zagnidze and Komerki. But they're working very hard behind the scenes. It's very intense with bullet chess. So everybody, I appreciate, everyone calmly waiting here. So Nana Zagnidze and Komerki, as well as Tashik and the Mindhunter. What a username, the Mindhunter. Yeah, it is a weird Armageddon, but the Armageddon is in place for all formats. So I think that's just the agreed upon. Remember, this is a FIDE event. It is a FIDE chess.com joint venture here, so it's an official event for the Women's Speed Chess Championship. And so they came up with the regulations. These are what you stick to. And I guess because the eventual Women's Speed Chess Championship will be in all 3 time controls, 5 minute, 3 minute, and 1 minute with that 1 second increment, that the agreed upon Armageddon was just this longer time control. Because how do you do Armageddon in any other format? You could play sudden death in bullet or something like that, but that gets tricky. Decide what the white piece is, maybe has advantage, whereas Armageddon is more of a toss-up, and it feels like it gives both players chances. So yeah. And what's just waiting on confirmation. It seems like the players, I'm in the call with the players. I can't hear them. I turned that off, but they're being spoken to. And just to figure this out. And okay. I'm just awaiting word here. Lots happening all at the same time. It's hard to talk to the players if they're playing bullet games, so. And they're all on a call. They're all being monitored. Oh, I guess they're going back to bullet? Oh, I see what happened here. So it says these players are 1-1, but it's because they played each other during the Swiss part of the event. So I think that it is the second game between them, but because they played each other, they're at 1-1. But they're not actually 1-1 in terms of this particular knockout match. Oh, I think that's what's going on. I'm trying to figure this out as well, but that seems like what's going on here. And they're going to restart the game. Well, they're not going to restart. They're actually going to go back, I believe, to this exact position with their exact times. They haven't been able to look at anything. They're on a screen share. They're on a call with staff, and so it's not like they were able to talk to anybody about the position. I guess they could think about it a little more, but yeah, that's pretty crazy. So, still waiting though on Nana and Nino and Natalia and Gunai for them to start their matches, because they just have to rematch each other. So I wonder what's happening there. And let me take a peek, because I see the players. And they're all... Well, Alina is gone from her chair, but that's because she won her match already. And Daisy Corey has dropped from the call because, well, she lost the match. She's done for the day. All right, so they're getting everything settled. Got to give a shout out to the team behind the scenes. I know things are not always perfect, and they're not going to be perfect, but they're working very hard, and it's a couple of people. Shout out to you guys, Nick and Isaac, working really hard on a Saturday here, trying to make everything work out. While doing Bullet, things are happening so fast. Talking to a bunch of different players, making sure that everybody is coordinated. So, want to give that shout out here. It is difficult, that's for sure. I'm here. I know what I have to do. I sit. I see the moves happen. I just shout out things that seem relevant, or like a potential tactic. They're doing a lot at the same time. Okay, so everything is being... There we go. So you see 2 minutes, and the reason why it's 2 minutes is because they're just going to take time off. What? Or not. I thought they were going to... They were just going to take time off the clock. Huh? Oh. What is happening? Now I'm confused. Waiting to see what's happening here. Everyone's doing their best. And... Oh. Okay. Oh, there we go. Wait. I don't think that... Yeah, I don't think that Harika... There it goes. Okay. She keeps... Is she there? Okay, now they're back. Whew. Whew. We have the game up. We have them going at it. 38 seconds to 37 seconds. And now they can just focus on the chess, and I can just commentate on the games. I feel a lot better now. So, okay, we have a position where let's try to... Well, Harika, she is like off screen more or less because she's so focused on the game. But let's try to bring her on camera real quick. She's so focused that she forgot that she was on camera where she put the camera. So now we have an endgame here where black is up a pawn. Oh, wait, black is not up a pawn. I miscounted. I thought that black was a pawn because I saw 2-on-1 on the queen side. But here, white's bishop is worse than the knight. The knight's on a dark square. You can never kick the knight. The bishop is stuck defending his pawn e4. So black is very happy in this endgame. Maybe this knight will come into f4. And that's the problem with bishops against knights. Is knights can go from color complex to color complex. The bishop has to stay in the light squares. The knight went back to c5 to protect the pawn on b7. So I guess b5, she doesn't want to see c4. Well, now b5 is possible because c4 is met with knight to d3 check. The king came out to e3. Good by Harika to bring her king towards the center. And for Gunina, she needs to win this game. She lost the first game of this matchup. And so now h4, good move. This knight needs the pawn's defense. The knight retreats, knight takes on g5. So still chances for black here. I still think black is slightly better because you can bring this knight into e5, for instance, but this king can come to e4, f4, d4 to protect the e5 square. So rook h7 played, knight back to g5, rook h5. You're kind of inviting a repetition of sorts. So king to f4 now feels right. At some point, black needs to start pushing on the queen side. You have a 2-1 advantage with the pawns, so you need to start pushing them. King to c5, rook to b7. Harika is pretty much off screen at this point. She's so focused. So let us take her off camera here. Let's try to pull up Gunina for everybody because she needs to win this game. She has no choice but to go for victory here. And from the black side, c5. Here comes c4. She's making progress with the black pieces. This bishop is limited in scope. Oh, that was a potentially a good decision, but it's getting into it just now. 2-pawn down endgame. The pawns push themselves. That's all. You just need to push the pawns. e6 check was a possibility there to try to get the c5 pawn. Now it's... Oh, no. Oh, no. Take on d3. She could have taken on d3. The 2 pawns together are too strong, but I think if you took on d3, you would have been able to bring the king back, and your e-pawn would have sacrificed itself. So I think this is a moment now where it's winning for black. B2 is rook b7 check. C3 though. G6. B2. G7. Oh my gosh, white gets there first. White gets there first. Suddenly, white is getting the pawns forward first, but you can't stop them both. B2 played out of desperation, but now you can get a queen on E8. And you get a queen on C1. What is happening here? It's mate. It's mate. Oh my gosh, it's check and mate. That is heartbreaking. That is unfortunate. And we have to go to the other games because in this game, now it's even material. Nino Comaneci needs to win with the white pieces. Go to the game between Zhukova and Mamadzada. What is happening here? Mamadzada with the white pieces looks to be in great shape. And this is going to be, I think, just up a rook already. E7 is coming. This knight is under attack. This looks like a position where, unfortunately for Zhukova, she was dominant in the Swiss portion, but the knockout, it wasn't meant to be. I think some of her great bullet play, it left her, and now she is facing a defeat in this quarterfinal matchup against Gunay Mamadzada. Unfortunately for Zhukova, I mean, what an event it was for her. And she loses this game and loses the match. So Nino Comaneci needs to win this game here with the white pieces. Watch out for knight c6 check to pick up the pawn. So the knight came back to c4. King is very active here on c5. Nice move, bishop d4. You didn't want to have e5 and get the bishop caught out. So this king, oh, you can't go. Knight takes e4 check, which I wanted to play because the knight actually is great on c4 protecting b2. So bishop c1, good move. Bishop h6. Go bishop h6, bishop f8. She's trying to go bishop d6. Same idea. Bishop d6 check. You pick up the b4 pawn. Okay, we may get a tiebreak in this one. Nino Comaneci against Nana Zagnidze. We may end up in a tiebreak. This is up a pawn. The knight is trapped out here. Play e5. If you play e5, then you are able to trap this knight on a2. It has to go to b4. So now the knight has c3 and b4. It takes. King c2. The knight's in a light square. It shows the dominance, once again, of a knight against a bishop. So this bishop is doing a good job of covering e5 because the knight wants to attack this pawn. Knight f3. Try to go knight h4. Bishop f6. Ooh, knight h4 now. King d3. Bring the king up. You need to advance your pieces. Knight f3 back. Now e5 is possible. And then king e4. And then knight d4. Knight d4 is happening. And you're taking e6. And a5 was played, but now king b4. Oh, knight c6 check. She walked into it. She walked into it. And Nino Comaneci is taking this game here. She's queening first. And she's probably just going to checkmate this enemy king. Queen c3, queen b4 is check and mate. So it's 1-1, which means we get a tiebreak. Our first of the afternoon. Oh my gosh. That's checkmate. Wow. Gunina did finish runner-up last year in the Women's Pieces Championship. She lost to Elina Danilyan. And she's made it to the bracket stage every single time. First on Thursday, then yesterday, then today. Today's Saturday, right? I lose track of time during chess events. But she unfortunately has not been able to make it through during the knockout portion. So Gunina is very strong in all formats. She will be a force if she qualifies for the event. But the main stage requires her to finish in the top two here. And somehow in these knockouts, well, she's been knocked out all 3 days in a row. So we are about to get a tiebreaker game here. I'm keeping my eye on the players. Of course, I can see when the game goes live, but they are in the chat. They're trying to figure out what to do. You know, when to start. Why is she not seated in? Well, the players who were seated in, I guess, were agreed upon. FIDE is overseeing the event, so that's, I guess, kind of at their discretion. But the seated players include Ho Yifan, Anna Muzichuk, some very, very strong players. So you can only have so many players in the field. All right, let us get this one underway. We'll bring Nino Comaneci on camera here. She is focused on the game. She has the black pieces. She needs to make a draw. She's spending some time in the opening, which probably isn't ideal because it's an Armageddon game where she has draw odds, but she needs to play quickly. You don't want to spend too much time because that minute disadvantage will really impact the way you play. There is no increment now. It is just 5 minutes to start, 4 minutes to start for black. Black has draw odds. So I would prefer to have the black pieces in an Armageddon game. I think a lot of these top players do. But there are certain players who have an aggressive style who say, I'm going to play very quickly and create enough challenges for you to figure out. And here, this isn't an aggressive position per se, but there it is, d takes c4. I was about to say, you have these tough moments. Do you take on c4? Do you play c5? And Nino chooses to do so, and Nana here, with the white pieces, she's a bit ahead in development. She is one more minor piece developed. a3 at some moment will challenge this bishop, and if you take on c3, maybe white says, all right, I have the two bishops. I can use that later on in the game. Here's a3, played. You have to take on c3. You can take on d4 first, but now a takes b4. I would take this bishop, and now after I take on c3, I can even take with my bishop, or I can take with my pawn. But either way, the pawn on b4 will be protected. Now white can claim an advantage, or at least an imbalance of sorts. The bishop pair can be quite useful in a position like this. And I think I would take with the bishop. She takes with the pawn. She wants to keep the pawn structure intact. I guess bishop takes c3 would have been met by knight to e4. So she takes with the pawn. Now knight e4, you can always retreat your bishop back to e1. Right? The bishop is your advantage. You have a dark square bishop. Your opponent doesn't. Look out for an eventual b5, and maybe now b5. But I was going to say b5, move the bishop, play c4, try to open up this bishop here. She plays queen c2. Trade me. Go for it. Now I take back. My bishop has this c3 square. So I like the way Nana is playing this with the white pieces here. It's just a tough position for black. You don't actually see a concrete idea when it looks particularly great for you. You want to play rook to c8, so she plays queen e7 first, putting pressure on b4, but now queen to b2. So she gives up the pawn. She wants to play more directly over here. But I don't think I like this. A takes, c takes, knight takes b4. There will be some kind of queen b3 going after the b6 pawn, so maybe she gets away with it, but it just feels like a risky decision. She is crushing on the clock. 2 minutes ahead for her. There will be ideas of bishop g5. There will be ideas of e5. So Nino brings the knight back to d7. That way she can occupy the e5 square herself. Probably a prudent decision, but she needs to play more quickly. And if I'm Nana, now's the moment where I spend a little bit of time, figure out a way to make black's life as difficult as possible, not allow her to liquidate, to simplify, to have easier play. And let's see. Bishop b5. Okay. The rook went to c8. She doesn't want to give up control of the c file because if there was an earlier a takes, c takes, this queen would land on c7. So that's why she went rook f to c8. Good move. And what's white's next plan? I think you should move your queen over, but then knight to e5. And then this rook is open. This pawn on e4 is under attack. So she takes an a5. A big decision there. The more I look at it, the more I like it. If rook takes a5, you have c4, protecting your bishop on b5, threatening the rook on a5. So if you take with this pawn, then I play c4. I have an asymmetric pawn structure, so I can try to push the pawn, but this gives the knight the c5 square. So knight a5, it looks good. Trying to get to c4. Can I get away with c4? Probably not. But maybe. But then bishop a6, for instance, trading off the bishop, or playing knight to c5, going after this pawn. I like the way Nino has played this. She's played it really well thus far. And bishop back to e3, knight to c5, knight to d2. So she's defending both b3 and e4. She doesn't have much time, so it's going to get very stressful for her shortly. And let's see how Nana is handling this. Sort of playing in the dark, but also change her position. She's got a wall behind her. She's so focused on the chess, no time to be focused on where she's seated in relation to her camera. So king h8, the move is played just so if in the future you play e5, there's no checks on your king. But white has black's threats under control. I think that black should consider a move like bishop c6 soon. Rook to c1. If bishop c6, Maybe bishop retreats to e2 or f1 because the b6 pawn is a target. So h6, I kind of want to play e5. But you probably can just take it. I was thinking about putting my queen to a square like g6, but maybe it's just wishful thinking. Maybe it's wishful. So bishop e2, watch out for b6. Now it's a 40-second time advantage, but the pawn c3 is under attack. You can play bishop takes b6 here, but then there's queen c5 at the end. So the king is actually in the wrong square. Black's not threatening rook takes c3 because I'll just take it. I'll give up my queen for 2 rooks. That gives white good chances. She played queen to b2, going after the b6 pawn. c4 is under white's control. So that's a problem for black because the knight would love to get to c4. Maybe this knight will come to e5 and try to go to these squares. An extra 20 seconds now. It's only 20 seconds. c4 played by Nana. And knight e5 is the first one that comes on, but then there's queen takes b6 and then bishop takes b6. So the knight is actually stuck to the defense of the pawn. So knight c6 played, and you can't take on b6 because after knight takes b6, this knight was going to be hanging here on d2. So rook to d1 played first. This is getting intense here. It's getting really intense. And I don't know what black should do because this knight is protecting b6. The queen is fine for the moment, but if this knight were to be able to move out the way... Oops, that's me doing that. Sorry, I grabbed the queen. I intended to. I'm trying to grab the knight. If this knight can move out the way, then this queen on d6 is under attack. So queen e5 offering the queen trade. I would even think about this move queen to b5. So I could take back with the pawn on b5. But it's probably liquidating in a way that's not entirely favorable to white. So an extra 40 seconds almost. She takes the e5. She's going to take on b6 next. And I think you have to take on b6. And this bishop on b7 is not a good piece. And this pawn e6 is under attack. So f4 comes to mind, but then the knight can retreat to d7. So perhaps rook to a1. But I don't want to give the d file either. So I don't know where this rook belongs. a1 or d1. King f2 makes sense. This king can come to e3. King e3 now. And you just have to move because it's a pure bullet game at this point. It's no increment, just bullet. Maybe rook to a6, probably rook to a7. Keep up the pressure. Don't allow black to liquidate. Knight b3 is risky because now the pawn c4 is potentially weak. So c5, ooh, she gives up c4 to take e6. A big decision there, but she also will get her rook to a7 if you ever take on c4. Okay, that's a really good response, bishop d7. Let's see how Nino is taking this because Nana seems, we can't really see her facial expression, but she seems relatively calm. Nino, you can't see her facial expression either. They both have kind of sunken in their chairs a bit. And 18.8 seconds left, but she's a very good bullet player, as we've seen. The rooks are double hitting g7, rook g8, only move. Maybe there's knight d3 check first, but then the king went to e3. So rook g8, you're saving your king, but this b pawn is passed, but you have to move. 26, 25, you're up 10 seconds. Okay, she gets the move off. I think that black needs to play king h7. King h5. Oh, f4 check. Knight g4 check. But take on g4 and take on g7. I think you can just do that. King f3 gets mated. To rook b3 check. Rook takes g7? Oh, rook d8, but she blocks. I didn't realize it. Knight f2. Excuse me. The knight's stuck. Just take the knight now. Wait, it's 5 seconds each. Oh my gosh, it's 5 seconds each. All about the clock now. King h4. King h5 is also good. Just go. Just pre-move. King h4. King h3. King g2. That's what I would pre-move. 2 seconds left. Oh, take the rook. Pre-move anything. Pre-move anything. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. White wins on time. White wins on time. Anything could have happened, and that has got to be disappointing when there's 0.8 seconds left for white. That came down to the wire, but ultimately I think Nana Zagnidze, she earned that game there because she was outplaying her opponent. Credit to Nino Kamerki. She almost mounted a comeback there. Whew. That was just a bullet special at the end there, and Nana Zagnidze can breathe a sigh of relief. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, like that had me nervous, honestly. Whew. So we now have the semifinals set. We see that the matchups here, just one last time to see that Gune Mamadzada beat Natalia Zhukova. We have Zagnidze beating Komariki in tiebreaks. Alina Kashinskaya swept Daisy Corey. And Harika Dronavali swept Valentina Gunina. That moves us into the semifinals. We'll see Mamadzada versus Zagnidze. And we have Alina versus Harika. So let me make sure that I have these players followed. Okay. And we just have one match for remaining, 2 matches, but this is essentially the final. The winners of this match qualify for the WSCC. Need to take a breath. That was crazy. So Nana Zagnidze needs, to follow up a tiebreak victory over her compatriot with a win over Gunay Mamadzada, but Mamadzada has been tough. She just beat the winner of the Swiss event and will not go down without a fight. So we have a couple minutes. We're giving the players a rest. Alina and Harika they've been waiting for a while, I guess, but it's only fair to Nana Zagnidze to, give her a little bit of a break, because the nerves to win a game with 0.8 seconds left, that you need to recover from that. You can't just play immediately after that. That's some shaky territory. So giving a little bit of break to Nana Zagnidze. And yes, that is the Azerbaijan flag. So we have players from 4 different countries. It's one of the things I love about chess. It's a very international game. You have Gunay Mamadzada from Azerbaijan. You have Nana Zagnidze from Georgia. You have Alina Kashinskaya from Russia. And you have Harika Dronavali from India. So we're just giving Nana Zagnidze a little bit of time to relax, maybe grab some water, use the restroom, whatever you need. And we're about to see liftoff. So let's focus in on Gunay Mamadzada. We have her on screen now. She is taking on Nana Zagnidze, and we're back to bullet. I hope that Zagnidze can make that switch where she recognizes, oh, wait, it's back to the bullet. I don't have 5 minutes left, but I think she's still in that mindset, especially after winning with no time on the clock. So this Caro-Kann is a staple of the top Georgian players. They all play the Caro-Kann. It's taught, I guess, from the teachers. They give it down to their students. They play the Caro-Kann. And I can't really think of a Georgian player that doesn't play the Caro-Kann. It's just in their chess culture. Very solid opening. A little bit passive at first, but you have a nice foundation here with your pawns on these light squares. So knight e4, offering a trade of knights. You take and bring your next knight to f6. You castle queenside. You can also castle kingside in plenty of variations, but if you castle kingside, g4, g5 is what white is looking for. So queen e2, castle long, white will probably play c4. The g3 first, not to allow a bishop trade. And if you get c4, c5, then your bishop has the f4 square, for instance. So let's see. It's Gunay Mamadzada on screen right now. She's taking on Nana Zagnidze in the game that we have in front of us. So bishop c3. You're trying to play for an extra pawn on the queen side. Black has a pawn advantage from the e through h file, but the e pawn is particularly hard to move. And this pawn on h5 is doing a great job of keeping Black's pawn stuck in place. So a6 played so that if you capture on d4, you don't have knight to b5. So a6 is just a useful move here. It also means that if bishop takes d4, there's no pawn hanging on a7. So white can play take and take this knight, but taking this knight, it isn't always the best decision because it hurts Black's pawn structure, but gives Black the unopposed bishop. So now knight to d4 was played. This knight is probably going to b3. I think I would put my knight on b3 here. There it is, attacking this bishop. This bishop go to e5 if you allow it. This bishop is good on c5. It takes away queen e3, which I want to play. And if I'm able, maybe I'm going to take on f6 at the right moment and go after this h6 pawn. That's a real weakness. So queen f3, now c4 is under attack because the queen left its defense. Actually, I don't like that anymore. Rook h4, swing the rook into the game. Queen back to e2, then queen to c6, right? I don't want to give up that diagonal. So she plays queen e2, but queen c6, clearly a misstep there. by Mamadzada. And okay, queen on c5, keeping the pawn c4 is under some threat. G4 is a good move. That way you free up your rook, and is a pawn chain now. And your pawn on g4 is well defended. It's only the pawn on f3 that needs some help. Wait, 5 seconds. She got that move off. She had just over 6 seconds. She made the move. Knight to b3. Knight to d4. Bring the knight towards the center. Queen c5. Threatening rook takes d4. Knight back to b3. We could see a repetition. I know we haven't kept our eye on the other game, but just curious to see what happened. The other game ended in a win for... Oh my gosh, that final position is brutal. I'll hopefully be able to show that in a bit, but this game's still going, and it's a tense game 1. As soon as this game does, we will go to Alina Kashnskaya versus Harika Dronavalet. Harika has the lead because of what was a really brutal finish there. So c5, that's a good move. Knight to d4 back. c6, play c6. Oh, watch out, it's check. It's checked. She brings the knight back. She barely got that off in time. I was trying to pre-move c6 essentially. But rook d... Bishop f4, she's making moves with just like half a second on the clock. Rook d1, good move. Queen c2, she plays rook c1 just to protect... I want to get over in the pin. Queen c4 is a good choice. Take. And now you can still play c6 at any moment. King b1. Bring the king back. King c2. I think black could play b5. That's a good tricky move. Not when the rook is defended, but b5 was an opportunity. c5 is hanging now. Take on c5. You play knight e4. And this pawn on g7 is a potential target. Knight g3. Knight d4. Ooh, knight d4 is good. Comes after this pawn. Knight f5 now. No, knight f5, I don't think white should lose this. I don't think white should lose this. Pawn on g7 needs the knight's defense. b4 check. Now give a check on e3. All right, on e7. Bring the knight back to f5. King e4. Back to f5. Okay, king d7, king e4. Bring the king to e4. This knight is so defensive here. It's stuck protecting this pawn. The knight's going king e4 again. Really well done right now. King d5. Bring the king in. If king f7, knight e6 check. King here, king e4. It's a draw. It's a draw by repetition. Okay, we're going to take her off screen. We're going to go over to Alina versus Harika because Alina needs to win this game, and she has the black pieces and a potential attack. This is pretty hectic, this position. And Alina is very focused right now, trying to score a pointer. Her king is just running to the center, so she's trying to get an attack, but her king is probably going to be attacked first. Queen to c6 check. Oh, there's threats of mate here, but queen c6. Don't play rook to d7, because the queen actually guards it. So queen takes here, rook d6 is... Queen e5 is going for the crush. Oh, that's unfortunate for Alina. It looks like this one is out of her hands. Queen f5 check. Very nice by Harika. 45 seconds on the clock. Harika is just... She's too fast, too strong right now, and she wins the game. So Harika moves on there. We have just one game remaining. We need Mamadzada and Zagnidze to start their second game. So they have not rematched yet. And Harika is through. She makes it to the WSCC. She won. And let's see how this one goes. We have now Nana Zagnidze on camera here. She has the white pieces. Gune Mamadzada with the black pieces here. If they draw, we get another Armageddon matchup. I'm not sure if Nana Zagnidze's nerves can handle another Armageddon because it gets very intense. But this exchange Slav, people say, oh, you're just exchanging pieces. It seems very solid for black. It actually, there's a lot of bite to positions like this. They can be quite dangerous. Queen a4 check. You bring the queen back to c2. So black had to retreat the bishop to d7. Now the bishop is stuck behind the pawns. Knight f3, knight e5, castle kingside. I actually think these positions are quite nice, comfortable for white, and very minimal risk in a bullet game. I really like the opening choice for Zagnidze. And there are 3 more days after this. This is the third qualifier. There are 3 more. It'll go back to 5-minute plus 1 second increment. Tomorrow, on Monday, there will be 3-minute plus 1 second increment. On Tuesday, there will be bullet again. So queen on e2, this is a good move. You can try to play for e4. You've also gotten out of the rook's path because you would want to move your knight in some lines, but you can't do so with the rook staring down at the queen. So a6 played. Knight to e5 is a good-looking move just to advance in the center. Because if knight e5, knight takes e5, d takes e5, the knight has to go backwards, and that doesn't look ideal. Rook fc1 played. She might be trying to play on the queen side here. Rook c2. She had to move the rook because knight to b3 was a fork on the rooks. Knight b3 is still an option, but knight c4 played. Rook to c1 looks good. Knight e5 also. As mentioned, if knight takes e5, d takes. So this would be the best version possible because the knight was on c6, then on f3. What did white do in the interim? White brought her rook up to c2. So we could have had this position had white played knight e5 earlier, but we get it once more with an extra couple moves in for white. I like the look of rook to c1, taking over the open file. b4, good move, but also loosening up the queen side. So Zagnidze very focused here. Trade on d6, rook to c1. And black can consider e5. I don't like that black lacks space here. Rook to b1 play 2. I guess you can try to play for a4 and b5. But knight e4. Try and trade off some pieces. I think bishop takes e4. She decides to go this way. The bishop on d5 is strong now. Rook c1. So white gets control of the open file. So this is advantageous for white, that's for sure. Bishop takes d5. Try to get the queen, and queen g4 comes to mind. Because queen g4, you can't trade queens. Queen g4 will be a very good move in certain positions. All right, not hanging a6 is protected for the moment. But if you played b5, my rook can come back to c5. Trade on c3. I think she should trade on c3. She's going to do it anyway, but I don't like there are more pieces on the board. She trade on c3 and move early. Ooh, take on a5. She doesn't take on a5. She would have been up a pawn. She could have stolen this a5 pawn, but she wants the firm control of the position, no risk whatsoever. I like it. With minimal time on the clock, 5 seconds, 4 seconds for black. You have to make moves here. If you take with the pawn, there's rook c8. The king will come over, so rook takes c6. The rook is passively defending. This rook is active here, putting pressure. The black king can never come over to the defense. So black is stuck, just shuffling back and forth. And white should go king e2. I don't know what king e1's about. King e2, maybe pawn f3. Good move. If you take, here comes my king to try to run to the king side. You cannot allow that king in. You absolutely cannot. h5 played. And it feels like a position where there could be a zugzwang. So e4. Just take here. Play d5. All right, now king f5. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. The king is in. Zagnidze making progress, but she's 1 second left. Now 2.4. She needs to move quickly. King takes g5. King takes h4. Okay, she's winning on the board, but time. a4. Oh my gosh, I would pre-move rook takes b5. At some point, I think that... Okay, now rook takes b5 isn't a pre-move. It's just capture. b6. And at b7, king c7. King c7. You're taking the pawn with your king. But what is these 2 pawns? Well, she barely got that move off. 1.6 seconds. 2.8 for black. Gune Mamadzadeh here. Who barely got the move off. Move the king. Oh my gosh. Take the rook. And g6. Pre-move. Pre-move. Go. Don't put your king on e6. Because then queen c4 check. King e5. Good move. Oh my gosh. We're about to see a draw. It feels like after the queens get traded. That was a close call. A great fight by Mamadzadeh. We are going to move on to tiebreak. We see that Zagnidze disappointed, but we will go into another Armageddon. Oh my gosh, that was close there. She had no time. Well, she wanted just to push the pawn. She should have started pushing this kingside pawn, but of course she was hoping that this rook would be distracted, but Mamadzadeh brought the king in, and now the king comes up. And the problem for white is that the king wants to go forward, but this pawn's in attack. She should play g6. There's no way for the rook to get behind the pawn without losing the a3 pawn. But I understand king to g4. But then when this king came up, really good vision by Mamadzadeh because rook to g1, rook a4. You give a check, then this pawn is going to try to promote. But you can probably end up getting in a passive position like this. But this king is coming back very quickly. So even if you try to push your pawn, you're not getting close enough. So a draw was held by Mamadzadeh. It was a bullet scramble there. And eventually it was a draw. But from the start here, Zagnidze played an excellent game. An excellent technical game. Nothing but kudos to her for the way she handled that. She never gave her opponent any sort of opportunity to play for more than a passive position trying to make a draw. That was really a crazy game. We're about to have the Armageddon. And... Wow. So the players, they're in a Zoom call. They're sharing their screens. They're focused on the games. 5 versus 4. Who is getting the white pieces? Nana Zagnidze has white and the 5 minutes. Once again. So once again, Nana has white with the 5 minutes. She feels confident going for the victory. She won that matchup against Nino Comerci with 0.8 seconds on her clock. They were in a time scramble. She won by 0.8 seconds. We'll see how Mamadzada handles this with the black pieces. I think she'll play quickly in the opening. She kind of has to. Nino Komerki spent a lot of time in the early stages, and unfortunately for her, she was not able to withstand the pressure, and eventually Nana Zagnidze had a winning position and then ended up winning on the clock. So the games are about to begin. Well, I shouldn't say the games. The game is about to begin, and we will bring Gune Mamadzada back on camera here as she gets the black pieces. She's down a minute on the clock. Okay, we have d4, c4. Typical Zagnidze style here. Knight to f3, bishop b4 check. So bishop d2 is the main move, and in bishop d2 you bring the bishop back to e7. Here knight b to d2, hoping that you capture on d2 at some point. I give the two bishops advantage. The bishop drops back to e7. White can play e4. Black can play d5. These lines tend to be quite complex, very tactical in nature. And this knight now wishes it were on c3, but you couldn't play knight to c3. You could have, but it's an entirely different variation where often black would have taken on c3 to ruin the pawn structure. So b3 played here. Black can play e5. There are times where you can play this move. It looks like you give up a pawn, but you're opening up the d file for the queen. I don't know, e5, certainly an option here. I played the black side of this position many, many years ago, so e5 played. And Mamadzada has spent half a minute. Zagnidze has done just about the same here. But it's not good for Mamadzada to keep the same deficit that she started with. She wants to, as you see Zagnidze thinking here, she wants to chip at that time lead. She wants to make quick moves, hope that Nana has to think a little bit, and then go from being down a minute to being down 45 seconds, then 30 seconds. Because as you get down to 1.5 minutes, 1 minute, that extra time becomes even more important in the position often. So knight to d7, she wants to play bishop f6, trade the bishops off, get her queen active, take over the e5 square. That's a great decision. Especially when you only need a draw. You don't need to play ambitiously. You just need to play solidly and hold on tight. And so bishop f6, good move. Already black is taking over some of these dark squares. And look at the clock situation. It's now down to 30 seconds. So she's cut her time deficit in half, and her position looks very good, in my opinion. Not better necessarily, but it's good. Okay, I don't know if I like that move because b4 now. And even if it's not the end of the world for white to start making progress on the queen side, it feels like you're at least giving her options. Knight e6. Put this knight on d4. Or on f4, actually. Rook e1, bishop f1, play it solidly. This is what Nana has to do. She has a lead in the clock. She needs to make quick moves and not trade pieces. Because if you trade pieces too quickly, then black's position gets easier to play. So she went knight f1. She doesn't mind giving up the bishop for the knight. And that doesn't scare her because sometimes a knight can be better than a bishop. And here I would even think about knight to e3. Trying to get my knight into d5. Knight e3 looks very good here. You just attack this bishop, try to bring the knight in, and you want to take with a c-pawn. That way you get rook c1 and go after the c7 pawn. So that's the trade that Nana's looking for. She needs to play a little more quickly. And I wonder if after knight e3 she's worried about some sort of queen g6. Maybe not right away, but there could be a potential attack on the white king. She's got to move. She has to move. She's now down on the clock, and she played knight e3 after a 36-second think. And Mamadzada moves quickly. Knight d4 actually just... Oh, maybe this didn't work out. Knight d4? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Mamadzada has this. That's why she thought for so long before playing knight e3, because it probably wasn't good. And that's... I was so focused on the bishop being under attack, and I was thinking of the bishop being captured to attack the queen, which it does, but this is a check on e2. So I did myself a disservice by ending my calculation, oh, the queen's under attack with check, without realizing that, wait a second, this queen is also under attack with check. So I think you have to play knight takes d4 and bishop e2, knight takes d2, but you're down 20, 30 seconds. So if you were up on the clock, you could just play knight takes d4, knight takes e2, and just try to flag your opponent. But now you're the one who's going to be in time trouble. So Mamadzada, she's got this. She's got this covered. And Nana plays queen d3, which loses in exchange. Just a bishop takes. Right? Bishop f3, I take back with my knight. And then this rook is under attack. Yeah. Knight d5, hope for queen g6 because then knight e7 check. But after knight d5, there's queen to g5, pinning this pawn and trying to deliver a checkmate. This is bad. I might even take on h2 here. But take on e1 is easy enough. And white is down a ton of time, is down in exchange and the pawn here. So Gunay Mamidzada, she has this one all under her control. She went from playing great bullet to playing a great Armageddon game in the Blitz, where she's been very quick today. I like what Nana's doing to keep this a game, because now the pawn on d6 is under attack. And then I play c5, I keep my knight there. The knight restricts black's rooks. That's what you need to do in order to have a chance here. And actually, if I take on d6, then I remove your extra pawn. So you'll still be up in exchange, but not for an exchange in a pawn. So kind of like what white's done last couple moves. I would play rook e8, and after knight takes d6, I would sack my rook here for the knight and then take on e4. And this king is in trouble. You're liquidating. Feels very safe. So she's thinking he plays b5. That may be the most clever move. Because if you take on d6, I'll take on c4, and you no longer have c5 to protect this knight. That was a nice move. That was a really, really nice move. So, what can white do here? Nothing much. Excuse me. If you play c5, you will not take on c5 and allow this back rank checkmate. After c5, you will probably just play d5. So cb5, cb5, I assume. And she spent 35 seconds taking on b5. I think she's resigned, Zagnidze has. And we see Mamidzada on the screen very focused. And I think she'll be really tough if she's able to convert this in the Women's Speedchess Championship. Because she's a very strong player, and she's shown today that she can handle the bullet portion, which is usually where I fear most for the top players. Is, do they have the experience in bullet, or are they just going to collapse there? She clearly can hold her own. But Zagnidze is still keeping this complex. Pawn is still under attack. I think rook e8 to e6 would have been the idea if you took this pawn. So queen e3, I'm once again looking at rook e8, g6. Smart move. Queen a1 check, and then take this knight. Take the knight. A draw is a win for black, so even if there were some kind of perpetual, which there's not, black wins the match. So g takes f5 does look safe and sound. And sometimes people try to play safe by not opening their king, but that actually is maybe more dangerous. Leaving the knight on the board would make your king feel less safe. So king moves to h8. I think this rook should try to come down to c2. This queen can always drop back to g7. I know white's plan is queen h6, but as soon as you play queen h6, I drop my queen to g7. Okay, queen g7 now makes sense. Queen b2 check. I think you can make a perpetual here. This king can't escape. So queen b2, just give a bunch of checks. The game would be over. But maybe she's trying to win it. I hope she realizes that she only needs a draw. I really hope she recognized that, because now we're getting to a time scramble. It's still winning for black, of course. But if you start making slow moves, that becomes a problem. f5 next. f5 right away was even stronger than d5. You're opening up the queens to attack each other. Oh, spent 10 seconds on taking there. No, Mamidzada's got this. Queen f6, hitting the rook, hitting the queen here. Once this rook e3 check worked, but rook e1 is just a rook e4. Yeah, this is over. This is over indeed. Rook c4, pinning and winning. So Mamidzada wins. She can breathe a sigh of relief. Her tournament is over, but she moves on to the actual Women's Speedchess Championship. So good result by her. That was really well done. She beats the higher rated Nana Zagnidze. And with that, you see the matchups in the books. We have Harika Dronavali beating Alina Kashinskaya. You have Gunay Mamanzara, beating Nana Zagnidze in the tiebreak, in Armageddon tiebreak. Wow, really well done there from the whole game from Mamanzara. She held very well. She played quickly in the opening. She played a tricky opening, and she ends up winning. So with that, we know our qualifiers. We have Harika, we have Gunay Mamanzara, and for the other two, they have a chance to come back tomorrow in the next 3 days to qualify. So on that note, I'm signing off here. I hope everybody enjoyed. There will be more Women's Speeches Championship qualification tournaments tomorrow starting at noon Eastern Time. These have started at 10 Eastern Time. Tomorrow it's 2 rounds later. It gives people on the West Coast of the United States a better chance to play. But on that note, I'm heading out. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you everybody so much for tuning in, for supporting chess, for your continued viewership. I know I'm extremely grateful and appreciative. So thank you, everybody. I'm out for now. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Tomorrow is 5-minute plus 1 second increment. So it's 5 minutes with the 1 second increment, 9 rounds instead of 21 rounds. I'm out, everybody. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy chess.